Hello everyone, my name is Captain Cannon, and as my first video, I wanted to tell you all about why I think Ghost of Tsushima is a perfect game. In the middle of summer 2020, well after the lockdown had started, Sucker Punch Productions released a spectacular game about a samurai fighting back against the Mongol invasion. A game studio who is mainly known for making the Sly Cooper games and Infamous. I know, a crazy selection, right? I know I'm a bit late for a video essay on this game, given it came out almost exactly 5 years ago now, but I only ever played it first in February of last year, 2024. But with Ghost of Yotei on its way, I figure there isn't any other perfect time to talk about it. Fair warning for these videos, there will be massive spoilers throughout here, so if you don't want to know what happens, then click off and play the game for yourself. I strongly recommend it. This is also going to be divided into parts, as editing just Act 1 took well over my entire weekend, so please be patient for when I release the second and third acts. Also, I won't be including any side quests that don't include the main characters in these videos, as this part 1 is already long enough. So if there wasn't a side quest you really enjoyed talked about in here, just know that it isn't any hard feelings. I'm graduating next week, so I may need a bit more time for part 2 to come out, but without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy Ghost of Tsushima. Our game starts at Komura Beach, where our two main characters, Jin Sakai and our uncle Lord Shimura, arrive on horseback with their army behind them. We see a man named Lord Adachi confront the main villain in hopes he can challenge their strongest warrior, probably so he can attempt to intimidate the Mongols to drive them away. However, the game's antagonist, Khotun Khan, makes a quick fool out of him and brutally kills him in seconds, a theme we will see in him quite often. Immediately after this, we return to our warriors who storm the beach and fight our way through the Mongols. This pretty much serves as a combat tutorial for us, however I will go into more detail about the combat later, probably in part 2 or part 3 though. When we reach the end of the beach, we are confronted by the Khan again, and if anyone is thinking that this character looks familiar, fans of The Night at the Museum will notice that his actor Patrick Gallagher is the same man who played Attila the Hun in those movies. Despite his goofy role in that franchise, his performance in this game is stellar. He's genuinely intimidating at so many points while being a more calm and put-together villain who is surprisingly intelligent. After being taken out by a few arrows, we watch as the Khan tries to turn Lord Shimura against Tsushima and join his empire. After refusing in silence, the Khan knocks Shimura to the ground and we fade to black. When we come back, it focuses on Jin lying unconscious on the ground with the simple prompt, press X, wherein Jin clenches his fist with the notion to drive back the Khan, and now the real game begins. We find ourselves in Komata Town, not far from where the battle started. When we get up, we notice that not only is our gear missing, but the Mongols have successfully invaded Tsushima. When we sneak into another house and find our broken armor, we meet Yuna, a thief who also rescued us at Komata Beach. She helps us sneak through town to find our sword, which she sold for money after looting it off of us. At least she's nice enough to get it back. When we pick it up, we are reminded of the first time we sparred with our uncle, who gives us a proper introduction to combat, but also reminds us to not fight with our emotions, especially when defending ourselves. When we finish the spar, he asks us the most important parts of our code as samurai, with probably the most important being honor, as it helps the people of the land not fear us when we fight. With our Sakai Katana, we continue to exit Komata, but not before long we decide that we need better transportation to get around. So, we head to the stables and spot some Mongols. Yuna suggests we take them out quietly, to which Jin refuses as it does not honor the way of the samurai, another theme we see throughout the game. When we beat the Mongols, we are allowed to pick out a horse for ourselves, but before that, Yuna tells us about why she saved us. Her brother, Taka, was captured by the Mongols and was hoping we'd help her. We agree as long as she helps us with our uncle, to which she agrees. Back to the horses, I chose the Digital Deluxe option and named him Nobu, which means trust. Although each of the horses are beautiful, I just really like the light brown one, and Nobu will be alongside us for our entire journey. Moving on, we ride with Yuna all the way to Castle Kaneda where our uncle is being held. Now, I just want to point out that I had heard people thought that the game's combat was really easy, and so I wanted to challenge myself and play it on hard mode, since the last 2 times I played it, it was on normal. However, it would seem that I accidentally turned the game to easy when I switched low intensity combat on then off again, just to see what it did. Apparently, it turned my difficulty to easy without me knowing for the entirety of Act 1 before I realized. I know, whoops. But don't worry, as soon as Act 1 was being concluded, I put it at lethal just to make up for my actions. Not that it's that big of a deal, but you know. Regardless, we fight our way through the castle and arrive at a bridge where we legit fight the Khan and we kill him, and the game is over. Haha, I got you. I just lied to you. Anyways, he absolutely beats our ass, because of course he does, and throws us off the bridge into the water below. Jin Sakai is then reminded of the day his father died on Iki Island, when he watched him die. We see this flashback plenty of times later on, but we'll get to that. After seeing that, we are also given a vision of the day his funeral was held. Yoriko, who is one of the servants of the clan Sakai, tells us that we have to face everyone and that we aren't alone. She also tells us our father is the wind at our back. After splitting with us, we walk to our uncle, Lord Shimura, passing by other characters we will meet later, like Lady Masako and Sensei Ishikawa. When we approach Shimura, we find that Jin feels responsible for his father's death, to which Shimura tells us that he died protecting us. A warrior's death. He gives us our father's sword and tells us he is always with us. From this moment on, Jin is now being raised by Lord Shimura as his ward.
He is always with you. Tomorrow, you will come to my fortress as my ward. Today, say goodbye to your father.
When Jin comes out onto another beach, he falls to his knees, then is guided by the wind to his next objective, which I picked up this time as the wind being Jin's father, like how Yoriko said. And this objective is to find Yuna nearby and tell her what happened. They then talk about how they need to find new ways to stop the invasion since the Khan will expect every move they make. Mongols then appear, and after using some tall grass to hide in, they come to the conclusion that the Mongols are aware that Jin is alive and are hunting him. Jin says they need another way in, and Yuna mentions Taka. Her brother is a blacksmith who can make something to help with that, which we'll talk about later. But she heard he was captured near Keiichi, which will be the next time we see Yuna in search for Taka. At this point they depart, and we experience the title card portion of the game, and Act 1 truly begins. Now we are allowed to explore the first part of Tsushima's open world as much as we want. And may I just say, in case you didn't know already, this game is absolutely gorgeous. I can't think of a single spot in the game that was ugly. The scenery, environmental storytelling, and overall vibe of the world is extremely pretty. There's also plenty of activities and collectibles you can find around the world too, like haikus, which lets you create, well, haikus about how Jin feels, hot springs, which allow you to reflect on events that happened to Jin in the past or during the events of the game, and bamboo challenges where you press a set number of buttons in a time limit to increase your resolve, so you can do more cool combat things or heal yourself. Follow foxes and climb Shinto shrines to get new charms to put on yourself to make combat or farming a little easier. You can also pet the foxes, so that already boosts the game up by a few points. There are a few more activities, but nothing you can really do right now. Around the island you can find small villages or farms that have been overrun by Mongols, and clearing them out will increase your legend, or level you up, and clear out a big portion of the map. Occasionally, these Mongol territories will have bosses at the end of them, wherein you have a duel that, over time, becomes more and more challenging. Returning back to the main story, though, we run back into Yuna right where she said we'd find her, right after being jumped by some Mongols. She tells us that she heard Keiichi had a blacksmith prisoner being escorted to the camp, which we hope to be Taka, and we head off on horseback right away. When we arrive, we have to survey the camp for an easy way to enter. Surveying and investigating areas for clues are another common feature of the game, kinda like the Arkham games in a way, where during certain missions you go through a few options on how to advance in said quest. Here, Jin puts his samurai thinking cap on and, like usual, suggests they go in head on. But Yuna hits him with reality. If they see or hear us coming, then the prisoners' lives are at stake. So she suggests we go in stealthily. Jin dislikes this idea as, once again, it goes against his code. Honor is everything to a samurai. They live and die by that code. But Jin comes to his senses and realizes that Yuna is right. We now unlock a new form of combat, stealth, which is pretty self-explanatory. But when Jin stabs the first guard in the back, he is once again reminded of his younger days, being taught by Lord Shimura about the way of the samurai. During a bear hunt, Shimura is attacked by a rebel from Yarikawa, who despises Shimura. He retaliates and cuts his arm off, triggering Jin to snap at the assassin and let his emotions take over again. Shimura reminds Jin that not only must you fight with honor, but a samurai must look his enemy in the eye when in combat.
We look them in the eye with courage and respect.
But when we return, we must continue through the camp to find the prisoners. Or prisoner, rather. After sneaking through, we find only one remaining prisoner who tells us that there was a blacksmith prisoner who fit Taka's description, but he was being transported to Azamo Bay. At this same time, we move to Shimura's perspective, who's still being held up in Castle Kaneda. Khotun Khan tells him that Jin is still alive, but that he's being hunted by the Mongols, but that he'd stop if Shimura sided with him. But Shimura still holds strong and doesn't give in to the Khan's offer, even if it will save lives. Returning back to Jin, we meet Yuna's friend Kenji, my favorite of the side characters, a swindler who loves fucking with the Mongols and saving his own ass, but still has a heart for his friends, Taka included. Kenji here is going to help us get into Azamo Bay and save Taka without being noticed. Although he and his ideas are a bit unorthodox, he means well in the worst way possible. The plan is to hop in a sake barrel and be wagoned into Azamo Bay to be served to the Mongols, only we'll hop out as soon as we arrive and sneak away. When we arrive, our goal is to find the slaver and follow him to where he's going. Thankfully, he goes straight to Taka. Before he kills Taka, Yuna takes him out, finally reuniting her with her brother. While the reunion is sweet, Taka is still shaken up by the enslavement, and we quickly make our way out of there. On the way though, the Mongols find the slaver's body and they go rampant, trying to find us, but we quickly get outside the walls and reunite with Kenji, riding as far away from Azamo as possible. When we find a stop, Taka thanks us for our help in rescuing him. Yuna is relieved that her brother is safe, and now our next goal is to dart over to Komatsu Forge, so Taka can make a tool to scale Castle Kanade's walls. And Yuna thanks us. Stepping away from that for now though, we need to go find new recruits for our storm on Castle Kaneda. If you remember from Lord Sakai's funeral, we had a small run-in with Lady Masako and Sensei Ishikawa there. First, our sensei, who have been attacked at his dojo. Following his footprints and some blood trails, we find him in his house with a bow readied and aimed at us, thinking we're intruders, before realizing we're students of his from the past. He tells us his student, Tomoe, has gone missing and wants our help locating her. Finding a campsite not too far away, we find her quiver, which was a gift from Sensei Ishikawa, which she would never leave behind, willingly. Assuming she was kidnapped, we head for Fort Nakayama. Along the way, we prepare for an ambush, where we learn about archery. Not too complex, but you will get cooler arrows for it later on, like fire and explosive arrows. When we arrive, the ambush commences, and we clear the fort and search for signs of Tomoe. While we search, we notice strange occurrences within the walls, like Japanese arrows fired with perfect precision, and a kimono hung up neatly as if they were being treated as equal to the Mongols. Suddenly, a surviving prisoner of the fort calls out for help. He tells us of a Japanese woman who helped the Mongols get better with archery in turn for her freedom, as long as she trained the Mongols. This turns out to be Tomoe, which Ishikawa tells us that she was the one who attacked him in his dojo, not bandits. This conversation tells us a lot about Ishikawa, and that he is a stubborn old man who just wants to clean up after the mess that he created. He feels at fault for his failure, but Jin won't let him do it alone. Ishikawa accepts his help as long as it's his way. Now, if I can be honest, Ishikawa's questline has always been my least favorite, because a lot of the missions tend to be a wild goose chase to find Tomoe, but they're still good. My personal favorite doesn't begin until Act 2, which starts almost immediately. Moving on, we find out from Ishikawa that Tomoe was a bandit he took in, which may explain her assault and turn on Ishikawa. We head to a watchtower to find more of Tomoe's target practice before getting ambushed. Ishikawa was aware of the Mongols in the tower, but just wanted to see what Jin was made of. Heading over to a small farm overrun by Mongols in search of Tomoe leads us to information that she is leading a Mongol attack on Hiyoshi Springs, where Ishikawa's dojo lies not far from. Given that Ishikawa is also a samurai, one who wasn't at Komoda Beach, he heavily disagrees with the fighting style we performed at the farmstead. However much Jin agrees with the samurai code, he realizes that this enemy is not like any other they faced. Ishikawa is afraid of making another Tomoe, but Jin is sure that that won't happen. When they move back to the dojo, Ishikawa tells us about how archers have been murdering travelers going in and out of Hiyoshi Springs, likely the very same archers Tomoe trained. Jin surveys the land and they both pinpoint the locations of the Mongol archers. We head to the areas where we figured they'd be, take them out, and ensure the safety of Hiyoshi Springs for another day. When we get the last group down to their captain, he delivers a message from Tomoe, threatening Hiyoshi Springs and mocking Ishikawa about another famous student he taught, Hironori Nagao. They once again split up before their last defense for Hiyoshi Springs. Wondering why, Jin asks Ishikawa why Tomoe would attack Hiyoshi Springs, and the sensei says it's because he was born here. Wiping it out not only would prove her worth, but could impact Ishikawa's morale as well. Just then, they're jumped by Mongol archers sent by Tomoe. Wiping them out once again leads us back to our defense for Hiyoshi Springs. We stand and wait on the north side of town and ambush the Mongols before they can touch the springs. After we're done with cleanup, Ishikawa spots Tomoe above the cliff burning the Nagao banners, then runs off. We then see a conversation between Ishikawa and Jin about the reality of Hironori Nagao's death. The legend is that he died fighting bandits, but in reality, he turned against the code and used his skill for more nefarious purposes, being slain by the rest of his clan, Clan Nagao. Ishikawa views it as his first and worst failure, worse than even Tomoe. Hironori Nagao's story was told to Tomoe, which Ishikawa thought would be a way for them to connect as teacher and student, but it didn't work out, obviously. Jin reassures him that even though he had failures in the past, he succeeded today as the savior for Hiyoshi Springs. However, this plotline will have to be left alone until Act 2. On to our next recruit, Lady Masako, the wife of the man who was killed by the Khan in the intro. When we arrive at the Adachi estate, however, not only is it abandoned, but bandits have attacked the estate. Following horse tracks that lead out of the estate, we run into Masako, who is distraught about what happened to her family. It's here where she finds out that her husband died at Komoda. It is also here that we find out that the entirety of Clan Adachi, aside from Lady Masako, is dead. Not by Mongols, but by Tsushima's own people, traitors. Basically, the entirety of this quest line is finding out the culprit of this attack. Relating to Masako, Jin agrees to help track down her family's killers. Hellbent on revenge, Lady Masako and Jin head out to the Golden Temple where Masako hopes to find a lead. She gives us a few tasks in the temple to do. Find the armorer for the samurai clan armor, and to find Sogen, as she suspects him of conspiring against her clan. After a very suspicious conversation with Sogen, Jin and Masako trail him all the way back to where his gang of bandits are held up. He tells the bandits that Jin and Masako are onto them. Killing the bandits, we corner Sogen in the house, only to find out he was just a messenger. Masako, rightfully so, kills him before we can get any information out of him, but we do find a list of names with Sogen's name on it, and a symbol that Lady Masako has seen before. The list tells us of a man named Sadao, who we need to find, but Masako knows how to find his brother, Hachi, who we trail in hopes to find Sadao. Hachi hands something to a couple of bandits, and we decide to trail the bandits instead, back to a homestead. There are bandits we have to kill here, of course, and inside a house is a woman named Hina, Sadao's wife. She claims innocence for her husband, but Masako just isn't believing her. Jin, however, insists on letting her live and getting information out of her. Masako agrees to take Hina back to her home and question her, but Hina fears Masako so much that she won't say anything to her. But Jin approaches with a more calm approach. He tells Hina that Hachi has been delivering messages for Sadao and that Masako will find out soon enough, but he will do his best to save her husband's life. Masako doesn't like this, but she doesn't have any choice. Jin and Masako go to the cliff, and Masako reminisces over her grandchildren and how she misses the music they would play. Jin whips out his flute and plays some music to calm her down a little, but not before long, Hina screams, and they rush over to find her dead. They track the killers down to a cemetery where Hachi is, but Hachi was already dying and claims he killed her so he would live. But it was in vain. His body, however, holds a map of Hachi's supply routes, so our next goal is to find a monk who can read the maps and locate Sadao. Meanwhile, Masako leaves to bury Hina as it's all she can do to repay her. We head to a camp in Ariake where we find Junshin, a monk we met at the Golden Temple. We give him the map and he says it's used for delivering food, and that it shows the lighthouse, which Masako gives some insight onto who built it. Her and her family. The lighthouse is of course riddled with bandits and we have to clear them out, while Sedao is waiting at the top, like a cornered rat. Climbing it we hear verbal fighting and then a scream.
Masako.
He helped kill everyone I loved. And for what? To satisfy his pathetic hatred?
When the Mongols defeated the samurai, I wanted to die with them. I threw myself into a battle I knew I couldn't win. It was easier.
How do you survive?
I remember that I have people to protect, and the dead to avenge.
With Sadao dead, whoever is responsible will hear that I'm alive and hunting. They'll become afraid, make a mistake.
Just be careful, Masako.
You too. You are a part of this now.
The hunt will continue once we enter Act 2, but now we find ourselves at Komatsu Forge. Immediately upon entering Komatsu, the town seems barren at first, but it isn't long before we find Mongols fighting none other than Yuna. Trying to protect what's left of Komatsu, she informs Jin about the civilians being held prisoner. If they weren't killed or in captivity, all who remain are those that can't even defend themselves. Guiding us to her brother, Taka, Jin expresses his desire for a tool to help him infiltrate safely into Castle Kaneda to rescue Lord Shimura. Taka would be absolutely honored to help, but not by himself. His assistant, Yukio, left to find his family, who we need to save in order to keep harm away from Komatsu. Once we save and escort Yukio's family to the forge, Taka tells us how Yuno left to help save a family she and Taka were close to when they were younger. Once they're safe, the forge is ready to be lit, even though the Mongols will be alerted. With the knowledge that the forge itself will stay undamaged, we lure them in and prepare to strike. Cutting them down was a breeze. Felt like nothing to Jin. But to the townspeople who watched him do it, it means everything. A sliver of hope in this dangerous war they face. However, seeing the reactions of everyone, both Jin and Yuna's mood switch, Jin thinks they'll fear him for fighting differently from a samurai. But Yuna, well, I think she says it best herself.
It was nothing.
You are more than a samurai. He is a vengeful spirit, back from the grave to slaughter the Mongols.
Where do we hide now? You don't. Fire up a forge, and get back to making strong Komatsu weapons. That's how we fight back. That's how we'll save Lord Shimura. Vengeful spirit?
I think they liked it.
Returning to Castle Kaneda, Khotun Khan faces Shimura in another conversation in hopes of turning him against his island. However, this time he tells him of Jin's way of fighting, how it dishonors the way of the samurai. Shimura refuses this truth, but the Khan doesn't back down. Thinking this will have them join forces, he asks him to reconsider his offer. But Shimura sees through his lies to see his true plan. As stubborn as he is, the Khan still persists in threatening Jin's life for Shimura's freedom. Jin still needs one last ally in order to storm the gates of Castle Kaneda. His aim is to hire the Straw Hat Ronins. No, not those Straw Hats. Following a trail of dead Mongols, we find a Mongol crawling away from a stray Straw Hat lying on the ground. After we investigate it, a Mongol tries to attack us, but is struck down by a Straw Hat. But not just any Straw Hat, an old friend of Jin's, Ryuzo. Another one of my favorite side characters. These two childhood friends grew up together, but were likely separated once Jin became a samurai. Shocked to find out his best friend became a mercenary, he asks if the leader of the Straw Hats is around, but they don't have one. He died at Komoda Beach. When he asks for Ryuzo and the Straw Hats to help in his endeavors to save Shimura, Ryuzo declines at first due to his men being low on resources and nearly starving to death. Jin, with the prior mercenary knowledge, tells him that if they succeed in saving Shimura, then he'll pay them in whatever they want. As acting leader for the Straw Hat Ronin, Ryuzo gives in to the offer. At that moment, however, a horde of Mongols show up, and so the two friends have to fight alongside each other for the first time in years. When the fight is over, Ryuzo decides that he can't risk his men's lives for Shimura due to how malnourished they are. Jin insists he go with them to the Straw Hats' camp to figure something out. The plan they come up with, and the plan Jin presents to the Straw Hat camp, is that they will be raiding Fort Ohira, a farm along the coast, for all the food they have and give it to the Straw Hats for survival. The Straw Hats, however, are skeptical to listen to anyone who isn't their leader, or a Straw Hat. So Ryuzo gives him the Ronin fit, and they have a little back and forth banter. Ryuzo tells Jin that if they succeed in getting the food from the fort, then he'll help at Kaneda. They plan to meet up at the cemetery near the fort with all the Ronin who are well enough to fight. The goal for attacking the fort is to sneak into the lighthouse, climb up the ladder, and light it to distract the Mongols so the Straw Hats have an opportunity to attack. Once the fort is empty, they search the fort, but find nothing around. They do find a scroll in Chinese that Jin is thankfully able to read thanks to Sun Tzu. The scroll says there is food, but it's being transported off the island. While they sneak down to the coast, Ryuzo comments on Jin's fighting style, which tells us how Jin used to fight when they were young. But before they talk any further, they have to signal the men to rain fire arrows onto the explosive barrels, so they can cause a distraction to safely row to the large boats with the food. Once on board, they search the first boat but find nothing. The second, however, has some war plans. Suddenly, we hear Ryuzo is struggling in battle. When the boats are cleared, we're shot at and have to abandon ship, sadly leaving behind the food we worked so hard to get. With Ryuzo distraught over his men's well-being, Jin shares some potentially good news with him, the war plans we found before, and hopes this plan works out. Ryuzo takes the plans and they depart so Ryuzo can feed his men. Returning to Yuna in Komatsu, Jin suspects her of spreading more stories about him, so much so that the people around town are referring to him as the Ghost, which Jin isn't exactly ecstatic about. Regardless, he lets Yuna know about the people he has been able to recruit for the storm on Castle Kaneda, while they go to pick up Taka's new tool for Jin, the Iron Hook, a grappling hook that is very fun to swing around with and the most important item to infiltrate the castle. Jin, who is very thankful for this, says he's in Taka's debt, but Taka doesn't want anything in return. It's a gift. He has everything he needs. Interrupting this lightheartedness, Ryuzo arrives looking for Jin. Apparently the Mongols have kidnapped a handful of the most skilled Ronin near Fort Yatate. Considering we need all the help we can get, Jin of course goes to help Ryuzo free his men. When we meet up with his other men, Ryuzo is informed of two other Straw Hats who were too scared to keep fighting, and deserted them. While Ryuzo is outraged with the cowardice of his men, Jin reassures him that we still have plenty of men for the job. Without any more delay, we ride for Fort Yatate. Since we can't just go through the front doors, they need another way around. With the Iron Hook, this becomes an easy feat, swinging across branches and grabbing onto sturdy stumps. On the way here, Ryuzo mentioned that his men had been singing while imprisoned, which we hear firsthand to be true. Once freed, we signal Ryuzo, open the front gate, and pincer the Mongols so they cannot escape. After the Mongols of Fort Yatate have been eradicated, we talk with Ryuzo about what he heard from his men while they were imprisoned. They were never harmed, but were instead fed by the Mongols, which may explain the singing they were doing while they were here. The only reason they came up with is that the Mongols had hoped for something in return. But with everything said and done, before we finish Act 1, we have one last side quest to finish. Kenji. Kenji. Always up to something. Jin asks him what he's doing in a town like this. Kenji says that the Mongols have been stealing food from this town and that he genuinely wants to help. Without the knowledge of where the Mongols' camp is, however, they're at an impasse. Without the possibility of an ambush attack, given that they have hostages, we're short on ideas. But Kenji does have one idea nonetheless. Once again, Jin is supposed to hop inside a container and have him shipped to the camp. While in the barrel, we hear the Mongols about to take Kenji's horse as well. While it may be deserved, his plan does work and we exit the barrel at the Mongols' camp. Silently executing them so that they don't attack the hostages, we eventually clear out the camp. Upon doing so, one of the hostages tells us that this was all Kenji's fault. Kenji, with perfect timing as always, shows up just in time for us to interrogate him. Kenji tells us that instead of giving the Mongols food, he sent them wood chips and straw instead, which angered them into kidnapping the villagers. While his intentions were good, he clearly didn't plan that far ahead. With the notion that Kenji wants to do better, but needs a bit of practice, Jin tells him not to do it in such extreme environments. Back to the finale of Act 1, we arrive in Komatsu one last time to meet Yuna, who Jin expected to have left the island as soon as Taka finished with the hook. Yuna loves the idea of leaving the island, but she tells him she only stayed to pay back Jin for saving her brother. Now that we have everyone and more, we're ready to storm Castle Kaneda, with one last glimpse of Shimura's point of view. The Khan tells him more of Jin's animalistic ways of combat. Shimura counters this and tells him that he believes that the Khan is worse than an animal. But the Khan thinks he's the same as Shimura, both desiring a legacy that is told throughout the generations. Shimura doesn't deny these accusations, but tells him that they're for different reasons, as he wants his legacy to be praised with honor. Now that Jin is on their front doorstep, the Khan tells Shimura that his very own castle is next for the taking. Castle Shimura. His home will soon belong to the enemy, while he starves to death in this castle. Only hours later, everyone is here. Only Ryuzo and the Straw Hats are nowhere to be seen. Considering they've waited long enough, they run through their plan to rescue Lord Shimura. Jin will find a way in with his hook and open the gates from the inside. Ishikawa, being the samurai that he is, thinks this plan is insane, and that we'd be thieves if we do it this way. But Yuna says he'd be more like a ghost. It was at this moment where I realized that the difficulty was lowered to easy, and so from now on I did actually play the game with an actual challenge. Oops, my bad. Regardless, we sneak in and get rid of the alarm so nothing sounds for when we make our way up to the real part of the castle. Jin and Lady Masako head on to clear the path before we meet up with Yuna for crossing the bridge. With hopes that Lady Masako can pilot the huasha they have, we clear out all the enemies that block the path so she can work it without trouble. After meeting up with Yuna, we take out a few more Mongols, then cross the bridge we were tossed from at the start of the game. Of course, the gate is locked and we need to grapple around to find a way in to open it for her. Once we do, we continue on to find a familiar face.
Ryuzo.
The Khan put a bounty on the ghost. Anyone can claim it.
You wouldn't.
My men are starving, Jin.
Help me save my uncle, and he will reward your men. He will make you samurai.
Then he'll send us to die. Just like he did at Komoda Beach.
Ryuzo.
He's your family, Jin. I need to protect mine.
With the betrayal of a close friend, we now have to fight a very emotional battle. A duel not between enemies, but friends who have two different goals. Only after defeating him do we get a glimpse at his real feelings, that he thinks the island of Tsushima is done for, that he's doing what he can to survive.
It's not too late. Help me save our home.
It belongs to them now.
Ryuzo. He's here! The samurai is here!
We fight our way through the last of them and we run into the pagoda that houses Shimura. He is at the top floor, so the gauntlet of cutting down Mongols doesn't end until we reach the top. When we get there, he expresses his appreciation and tells us how proud our father would be. With no more time to waste, he tells us where the Khan is headed, and that we need to vanquish what is left of the Mongols in Castle Kaneda. With not just 2 samurai, but with plenty of warriors we have found on our journey to free Lord Shimura, we eradicate everyone else who stands in our way. The last of them come barging through the gates, but our force stands strong and defends the castle with everything we've got. With the Mongols finally gone and the castle finally ours, we celebrate our victory over the Mongols and can finally rest easy, knowing Lord Shimura is safe. Far up north, however, we see the atrocities that Khotun Khan is about to do to get his way into Castle Shimura, demanding entry into the castle in exchange for the lives of innocent people by burning them alive. However, even more messed up is that he forces Ryuzo to kill his own people, instead of doing it himself. Also that Ryuzo's men can get food.
Let them in!
No! Open the gate! Open the gate! Open the gate! Open the gate!
Now, the Khan has successfully taken Castle Shimura. After seeing what Ryuzo and the Khan had done up in Castle Shimura, we come back to Jin meditating after the battle. Before we get into the real meat of Act 2, I just want to gush over the level of customization you get in this game. The variety of different armors and colorations you can choose are spectacular. Each of the outfits you have carry different buffs and affinities to them that help with certain gameplay aspects like combat and exploration. Personally, I love the Traveler's gear and the Ghost armor, which we don't unlock until much later. But it isn't just your outfits. You can change the sheaths of your katana and your bows too. You find these katana skins by collecting them from pillars of honor throughout the land, or by buying them from vendors. Speaking of collecting though, there are a few other collectibles in the game. The Mongol artifacts, which expose you to some lore about the Mongolian Empire, and records of islanders sharing their experience over the invasion. Now, we can talk over the combat of the game. Early on you'll start unlocking different stances that are effective against different enemy types. Stone Stance is your basic starter stance that's useful against the common sword user. You'll soon unlock a Water Stance, a Fluid Stance that counters shield users, big or small types. Eventually you'll get Wind Stance, a wild style of spinning slash and thrusting attacks that's great against spears. Lastly, you'll come across Moon Stance. which are the best for taking on the huge Mongols with axes or great shields, featuring a combo of hurricane-like attacks. You'll also have a few ranged options, like a blow dart unlocked later in Act 2, a half bow with regular and flaming arrows, a long bow with heavy and explosive arrows, and throwable items, which are the most enjoyable. For instance, you'll be able to toss a wind chime which draws in an enemy for a stealth kill. A more advanced version of that, firecrackers which draw in all enemies nearby instead of just one, and a black powder bomb that hits a large AoE, knocking all enemies on their feet. Lastly are your ghost weapons, used in face-to-face combat in place of stealth. Your options are between a sticky bomb, which when throw sticks and bombs, kunai, which can stun multiple enemies temporarily, smoke bombs that create a large smoke cloud to execute stealth kills when surrounded by a crowd, and the Way of the Flame, which I will actually talk about in part 3, since you don't unlock it until then. That's pretty much all there is to combat you can find, bar a few things. Returning to the main story, we get to see the first actual conversation between Jin and Shimura since the beginning of the game, as the last time we were too preoccupied with taking the castle. Shimura of course brings up Jin's exploits while fighting the Mongols, and after Jin explains his reasonings, instead of scolding him, Shimura understands why he did what he did. But despite his thankfulness, he still reminds Jin of the importance of the samurai's code. Since we are the ones the island looks to for protection, we, more importantly Shimura, don't want the land to fear them. Jin mentions Yuna and all she's done to help us get to where we are. Yuna desires a ship for her and Taka to escape Tsushima and flee to the mainland after all they've been through. Lord Shimura tells us he'll pay for the transportation only if she helps take Castle Shimura with them. Wanting to talk more with Jin, he asks for a ride with him to Toyotoma, the main region we explore for Act 2. On the way, we smell something unsettling in the air. Burning homes. Families. Likely done by the Khan. We spot a Mongol patrol ahead and wipe them out before riding to Fort Ito. Here, we will find a lighthouse Shimura needs to rekindle to spark hope throughout the land. However, it's been overtaken and there are prisoners here we need to free. Yuna catches up and points out a group carrying explosives heading towards us. Using an explosive arrow, we take them out instantly. Before lighting the lighthouse, Yuna tells Shimura about the boat she needs off the island. Dismissing the thought, Shimura tells us we need to focus on the objective at hand. Since we don't have as many forces as we need for the assault on Castle Shimura, Yuna informs us about the warriors of Yarikawa who may be willing to join the fray and rid the Mongols of the island. However, Shimura doubts they would offer aid due to his triumph over them years ago. Yuna, who grew up there and witnessed what he did, still admires him, and she will give good word to the people of Yarikawa. When we light up the lighthouse, which is another activity we can do throughout the island, that kickstarts the liberation for the Toyotoma province. Lord Shimura then gives us our tasks to accomplish in order to attack Castle Shimura. Our objectives will be to grab the Sakai clan armor from the Sakai estate, and to recruit Yarikawa. Meanwhile, Shimura will request backup from the mainland shogun. We, of course, have to go find the man that will send the message for us. Before we start any of that, remember those prisoners I mentioned? Well, one of them is a new character, with my favorite side quest line in the game. His name is Norio, and he of course will help with our assault on Castle Shimura. He is a warrior monk from Cedar Temple, a location we won't visit for some time. Norio was captured and slowly tortured along with his fellow monks. Many died, including his brother, a famous warrior monk, Enjo. Norio was imprisoned in a small hole in the ground for days. After meeting, they leave the fort and discuss their next plan. And Norio not only will provide help, but also the rest of the warrior monks will too. Norio plans to defeat those who captured and killed his friends, not with revenge, but to fight for peace. Our goal is now to meet Norio in Akashima village, and meet a healer named Hochi. And after leaving the area, Act 2 now legitimately begins. I'm gonna do things a little different from part 1 and do the side quest lines first before getting to the main story, mainly due to how much of the side quests take up. I will include timestamps in here if you want to skip ahead, but please reconsider. You'd be cool as hell if you watched it all. Since most of his quest line takes place in Act 2, we will start with Norio. In Akashima Village, we find him troubled with the fact that the healers from Cedar Temple have been unfortunately kidnapped by a convoy of Mongols. Because Hochi surrendered peacefully, nobody else was harmed, and everything was left untouched. Norio thinks his surrender was pointless though, since he thinks they'll just come back for more anyway. So now, since Jin is here, their plan is to go out and find where Hochi was taken, wipe out the Mongols, and keep the town safe. All we know is that the Mongols rode out past the tea fields, so our idea is to pick up their trails there, follow them out to the swamp, and to take them out. Jin politely asks Norio to stay behind to keep every warrior monk left alive and unharmed. After we silently take out, then loudly take out, the Mongols, we ask the monks for Hochi's location. Apparently, he was separated from the rest of the monks. Trying to pinpoint the reason as to why he was moved away, Jin remembers his impressive healing skills, which may be what the Mongols needed. They need to track the exact location of Hochi, but for now we need to regroup back at Akashima Village with the rest of the monks. Running back into Norio back in Akashima, we sit and talk with him about what happened to him to wind up captured. I'll use this moment to explain why I like Norio so much. As a warrior monk, his whole philosophy is to fight with peace, but he's been through so much pain, so much torture and loss that being someone who should fight with as much peace as he should makes it somewhat frustrating to concentrate. He still wants to focus on the objective at hand though, and we now move to where Norio thinks Hochi was taken. Heading out to the coast and locating Hochi all alone in a tent, aside from a few Mongols, Jin and Norio plan on how to go in and save him from the camp. Sneaking in, we make our attack on the camp while Norio makes a distraction. When they're all gone, Hochi screams out no. He exclaims the Mongols will be taking him to Cedar Temple as there are plenty of people there that need healing. Being jumped by a second wave of Mongols, we kill them and return to Hochi. He and Norio officially reunite, and Hochi shows his non-hostile colors. The troops he needs to heal at Cedar Temple are Mongols, the enemy. Hochi believes that no matter who the person is, healing is healing, and nobody should feel the pain of suffering. They, however, need to go back to Akashima Village before reinforcements arrive and plan a defense against the Mongols before they kidnap more innocent people. Before we even have a full plan, apparently Mongols are already preparing an attack near the village. Hochi believes the best idea is to let them take what they want, as we wouldn't want to be the ones with blood on our hands. But Norio has his first moment of striking back in defense of people's safety. Hochi does mention Enjo in a somewhat negative fashion, and that causes Norio to snap further. They decide the best option is to hide everyone away and kill the Mongols away from the villagers. Hochi dislikes the idea of hiding, but agrees that the villagers can be put away. Deciding the temple is a good spot for the villagers, they prepare explosive traps to take out the Mongols. Norio wants to help take them out with us, but we emphasize the importance of protection for the villagers. If nobody shields them at the temple, their lives are at stake. We use flaming arrows and stealth attacks to eliminate the Mongols within the village. Thankfully, they're all placed conveniently next to the explosives. When we moved to the temple though, Mongols had already found them and Norio was fighting alone. During his attack, Hochi had thrown himself to protect Norio from dying. While the both of them had completely different ideals on how they faced their struggles, both were just as brave as each other.
I'll do anything!
I didn't know he was behind me until I heard him cry out. By the time I turned around, he was dead. It's not your fault. Norio? Every time they lifted the cover on the pit, the daylight would blind us. This time, one of them stank like sake. I felt their hands pull me up, but my brother threw himself at them. He was starving, wounded, but he fought them. He fought them so hard.
Norio, you don't have to...
Yes, I do. They gave up on me and took Enjo. They took my brother. Everyone who rode south from Cedar Temple. All gone. Except me. They deserve to live. I'm the one who should be dead.
I thought the same thing after Komoda. Many times. I don't know why we survived, Norio. But we did. And these people are counting on us. We're all they have. The people of Akashima are alive because of you. Don't forget that. Because they won't.
We then meet Norio to the north at a large temple full of healer monks. One very important monk, called the Abbot, has gone missing. He fled when Mongols attacked him, and they suspect he may have ran into a farmstead an entire horse ride away. However, once we arrive at the farm, there's a fire on the opposite side of town. Investigating the house, there is a burnt-up body, but it's not our guy. Noticing some moistened bedding that hadn't been burnt and an open window next to it, the Abbot had escaped. Following his tracks, we find some Mongols up the road. They seem to also have tracked the Abbot to this position as well, as they're peering off the edge of the waterfall, meaning one thing. He must have jumped down to safety, although it wasn't too safe for him. We find he hid himself inside a crevice, and Norio comes to see what's become of him. While fearing that the monks will abandon the temple with the absence of the Abbot, Jin notices something called a Lotus Sutra, which was written in the Abbot's own blood, as a final, last-second message to the world. Jin thinks that if this sutra is shown to the monks, then they won't be too afraid to leave. Taking it to heart, Norio does what Jin suggested and tells the monks of the Abbot's call to action. Successfully keeping the monks in the temple means that they have hope and can continue healing the land from all its pain. However, something else is missing from the temple. Their statue of the Buddha is gone, taken by the Mongols. They were heading down towards the coast, so we promise the monks will head that way. However, one monk mentions that if Norio's brother wasn't strong enough to fight back against the Mongols, then why would he be any different? Since Enjo died to a Mongol, they kinda think nobody can take them on. But we shake it off and horse our way to the coast. Along the way is a near-dead monk who explains he tried to beg the invaders to return the statue. And, well, you can see what they thought of that. Pointing us to where they're located, we once again clear out a camp of angry Mongols in our own ghostly way. Then luckily we find the statue, unharmed and already in a wagon for us to wheel back to the temple. Norio tells us at the temple that this wasn't the only time people tried to steal the statue, as Enjo protected it from bandits once before. Norio wishes that people would have to stop dying to protect it, since it had so many greedy onlookers having at it. Both Jin and Norio had similar experiences with this statue as a kid, as it had originally inspired Norio and Enjo to become warrior monks. After all they've been through, Norio seems to be losing what he'd been fighting for. For Norio's final mission in Act 2, we find that the monks have been feeling better with the statue returned, but not before long. A Mongol shows up and demands for the surrender of both Jin and Norio, as they've defied the Khan. Accept and everyone lives. But we would never accept to this. When we refuse, they strike and I accidentally get bodied by an explosive shotgun. Once we're done being shot though, Norio fears for the safety of the monks by the river. He thinks that if we leave, then the Buddha statue could be compromised. Jin thinks their lives are more important, but it would be going against the sutra to the Abbot. Norio has to make a choice between the two, and he chooses to stay for the statue and the centuries of history that reside in this temple. Understanding his decision, Jin leaves for the monks at the river and warns them. Thankfully, we get there before the Mongols do. When they do arrive, however, we fight back with all we got for the sake of the lives of the monks. Then suddenly, Norio shows up, having abandoned the temple, and helps with the extermination. Norio realizes that people are people and buildings are buildings, so he cuts the shit and they run back to the temple and they have their final fight against the Mongols at the temple. Of course, there's plenty of waves of enemies we go through, but the only difference between us and them is that we have something to fight for. With all we've done, Norio officially agrees that he, his Naginata, and the fellow warrior monks will fight with Shimura at his castle. Checking the grounds for anything else destroyed, they see that a statue of the Buddha had been demolished. The very thing that Enjo had gained praise for protecting. They come to the conclusion that even though the statue is gone, its meaning still persists and will always serve as a great lesson. Finally, we'll move on for now. I love that questline, but that was quite a lot. Now we go on to my boy Kenji, who only has 2 quests left in his entire line. Encountering him, he tells us there is an opportunity down the road, with a ton of supplies at an empty Mongol camp. Jin is of course suspicious, but instead of caving in, Kenji tells us that there is nothing to worry about. The camp actually has plenty of supplies for the villagers, and also something to worry about. A man named Nato that recognizes Kenji is tied up, threatening to kill Kenji. Kenji tells Nato that he left him to go get our help, and as we free him, the Mongols for this camp show back up. While we're killing them, Kenji and Nato somehow manage to lock themselves inside a bear cage trying to get away from the Mongols. Freeing them means it's time for Jin's scolding on Kenji. We tell him that every bite of food is going to the survivor camp, or Jin may have a worse punishment for Kenji. Meeting him one last time, for his quest line, not permanently, we meet him in Umugi Cove. This time, he seems a lot more regretful for his recent actions, although it isn't because of his morals. You see, his life is at stake this time due to a falling out with a Mr. Gon the Butcher. Gon wants to take Kenji out back and shoot him, so to speak. All because Kenji...
He paid for delivery of sake and medicine, and I might have skimmed some to help survivors fleeing Izuhara, and didn't think he'd notice.
While his heart was in the right place this time, his brain definitely was not. Asking us to come with him just in case nothing happens, or if something does happen, then we'll be the first responder. Hopping on horseback, we cut through the off-roads and approach their meeting area. Before Kenji goes in, we discuss how we're going to tackle this box. Jin will sit and hide, and Kenji will yell out a phrase to alert us if something goes wrong. When we find a hiding spot though, we notice bandits watching from a distance. They plan to ambush Kenji, so naturally, we ambush them. Somehow, I managed to get spotted, so it turned out to be just a regular face-to-face assault. Of course, the bandits still want to focus on Kenji, so we have to protect him, and hey, look, the Mongols are here now. What, why are they here now? Anyways, when we kill them all and save Kenji, he thanks us and tells us he'll give us anything we want to make up for his bad actions. Jin wants nothing from him, but asks why he is the way he is. Kenji gives us the most surface-level response on why anyone does anything. We still think Kenji can do so much more, since he has saved lives multiple times in the past. Instead of reveling in a vat of money, he could revel in his own heroism. Kenji can be so much more, but sticks to what he knows most of the time. Jin wants him to take advantage of his positive skills, because his potential can really shine through. But after this, we won't see him until we continue the main storyline. For now, we'll be looking at Sensei Ishikawa. Finding him fresh out of a fight in the middle of the woods, we have to protect him from a handful of Tomoe's Mongols before actually starting his quest. We're finding out that the Mongols are starting to adapt better to Tomoe's teachings, having him surrounded. Or at least we think, since the only reason he got was because he's been too focused on Tomoe. For someone who makes mistakes all the time, they seem to happen only when it involves Tomoe. We grab our horses, finding more of Tomoe's work along the way, and trace her back to her next known location. While here, we scout ahead and see the quote-unquote target practice they've been doing. We get the jump on them and look around the camp. finding a supply list for more archery equipment for the Mongols, along with a message in Japanese that no Mongol could read. It's being sent out to the Khan, promising their troops will know everything there is to know about the killing samurai business. We find Ishikawa once again regretting his decision to take in Tomoe, and Jin notices that he is losing his path and can't think straight. This causes Ishikawa to lash out at Jin, since he thinks we were questioning his integrity. We meet him later being cornered by Mongols again, but this time there's some other dude here as well. Now at this point in my recording, I must have fat-fingered turning off subtitles, so at various points in the video there will be no game subtitles, but for now, just know that Tomoe is up to no good. She's been killing people on the road and pinning messages on them, saying Jin and Ishikawa are the ones behind these murders. With what she's been doing, Ishikawa keeps losing his head over these actions. Following Ishikawa and that one guy, we head to another of Tomoe's examples. We see firsthand one of these messages and a trail heading straight for a woman who is tied up. When we free her, she starts crying because Tomoe told her that when we came for her, she would then die, which she does. She's shot down by Mongols up on the cliff, which Jin and Ishikawa make quick work of. Doing this, Ishikawa tells us that the lady who just died was someone he had sent out on her own to find information on Tomoe. Jin tells Ishikawa off about this, but Ishikawa says that everyone must choose between life and death, which his power to manipulate that outcome is too strong. With not just Ishikawa back, but the subtitles too, we find him in a small farmstead, with a lead on how to find Tomoe from a woman named Ran. Ran seems to have accidentally found her camp and got out before anyone saw her. Ran confirms she saw Tomoe not just now, but way back when she was with a group of thieves. Apparently, she's been a menace for much longer than we thought. She tells us the camp is southwest of here, which we'll head to after a talk with Ishikawa. We find out that Ishikawa had offered Tomoe to adopt her as his daughter and completely improve her lifestyle, but that opportunity was taken from her due to her ways of combat, which may have caused her spiral. They move on to Tomoe's camp, which looks very similar to the one we saw earlier. So we do the whole shebang and take out the Mongols, and when we regroup, Tomoe of all people shows up and taunts us from a distance. Then an ambush of more archers show up. Ishikawa stays behind and Jin goes on to trail her to a cliffside, cornering her. We shoot at her, but she kinda girl-boss deflects it away. She calls us Ishikawa's new pet and tries to warn us about Ishikawa and make us turn on him. Her defense was that he apparently tried to kill her in the past. Jin doesn't believe any word of this, and Tomoe tells us that she has nothing left to do and nowhere else to go. So instead of dropping her bow and surrendering, she jumps off the cliff into the water. Not bothering to jump in after her, we head back to Ishikawa and tell him about what happened. Wondering why we didn't kill her, he tells us that whatever she told Jin was a lie. All she wants is to drive a wedge between us so we'd take each other out for her. But that's it for Ishikawa till part 3, since she'll be heading north to Kamehigata. So obviously, we'll be going for Lady Masako now. And she has quite a lot here. Immediately upon finding her, she tells us that one of the people on the list is a thief who stole some important things from her home after the massacre. She accepts our help to find the thief, but she needs us to be discreet. So we head out in the direction they went. On the way, however, she tells us that the thief, Mai, was a servant for Clan Adachi, so this betrayal means even more to Lady Masako. When we find her on the bridge, she's surrounded by Ronin. Watching and listening from a distance tells us that she plans to sell all the things she stole, but needed to wait for some reason. But the Ronin's boss doesn't agree with this and demands they sell it now, demanding Mai takes the Ronin to the heirlooms. They head off and we follow, taking out each straw hat along the way. When we follow them to the heirloom's location, the last straw hat calls out for an ambush on us since he knew we were following them. Once they're all killed, Masako asks to speak with Mai alone. When asked why Mai betrayed her, she exclaims that it was Masako who betrayed Mai. Masako can't understand this since she saved Mai from her husband killing her way back. But this was all because Masako never left her husband for Mai. You see, the two of them were secretly in love. There was never an affair, but they still have feelings for each other. Unable to tell Masako who she serves, Mai leads the two to the actual locations of the heirlooms. Jin is asked to retrieve the heirlooms so Mai and Masako can talk again. Once we return, Jin experiences a strange case of short-term memory loss and asks where Mai went. Saying she went home, Masako tries to explain her faith to her husband. Jin knows, so he cuts her off. Masako seemed to hold a lot of love for her heart. They cannot think of anyone else who this man behind the Adachi massacre could be, since Masako had nobody else who she had feelings for. Promising to find the killer, they move to a temple that Junshin resides in. When we're here, she informs us of a man named Kajiwara, who is on the list. And he lives somewhere in the area, but Junshin won't leave the intel on where he is. When Jin tries his hand at it, Junshin thinks that if he tells us his location, then Kajiwara could die. This is true. But after some convincing, he tells us his location. But we're only allowed to talk to him, nothing more. His hut is down on the beach in seclusion, so we grab Masako and tell her where his hut is. Junshin tells her goodbye, and we run down to the coast. Sadly, Mongols have located the hut before us. Like usual, we take them out and we enter the house to find Kajiwara. But he isn't here, but his dead wife and daughter are. Since Kajiwara's body wasn't here, we aren't sure if the Mongols killed him or whatever else. There are footprints leading away from the house. Hardly around the corner do we immediately find Kajiwara hiding away. He's begging for his life, saying he had no other choice, and with no hesitation to an accusation thrown at him about the death of his family, he gives in to killing them, thinking it was a better outcome than if the Mongols did it. Asking him who he was hired by, Masako assures him he'll die like his family, but he just complains that he did what he did because of how Masako drove him to poverty. Masako doesn't take another word from him and kills him. Everything he said was a lie. All they know now is that the attack on the Adachi family was personal. Now we run into Masako in Imuki Cove. She tells us of another man on the list who we've got to find. Omura, the titular guy, supplied weapons for the attack on the estate. Finding a spot to stalk Omura entering Imuki Cove, Masako tells us he used to be a family friend who delivered supplies for the family. However, he was greedy, so they broke ties. We actually see his two kids taking Omura's supply route. The two split up, so Jin and Masako do the same to follow them to Imuki Cove. The one we trail goes to a cave and talks to it about how the Adachi family betrayed them. But when we trail him to Imuki Cove, we meet up back with Masako and tell her that the man who hired the brothers is having a meeting with them up ahead. Following under a boardwalk leads us to a beach which Masako points out as a trap for the two, which turns out to be true. The bandito they meet kills the two, and that completely bombs the lead we had on them. When the bandits are gone, we search the bodies and find a letter on the bandit leader, ordering the death of Omura, who turned out to be one of the two brothers we were following. Omura had a letter saying he'd gladly pay the bandits. Apparently, Omura was planned to be silenced, and they come to the realization that the murderer wasn't even samurai. The further we narrow this person down, the better. They aren't samurai, they love Masako, and this attack was personal. Finally, we find Masako demanding the location of Junshin, our monk friend. We calm her down and we talk to the monk ourselves. The monk here tells us Junshin was providing aid for some people at a temple. When asked what she wants with Junshin, Masako says he wasn't exactly as friendly as we thought. There was a note addressed to him that was similar to the one with the names of the people on it, meaning he had contact with the family's murder. Jin still wants only to talk to Junshin, so off to the Red Leaf Temple we go. Right when we get there, peasants are running from a group of Mongols, which killed innocent people on temple ground. Continuing on to Junshin, we get to the temple and sneak up on the guards posted at the entrance. Masako is then tasked to guard the entrance while Jin finds a way in and rescues Junshin from the Mongols inside. We cut him loose, and before we get far enough away to protect Junshin from further danger, an arrow, Masako's arrow, tries to kill him. We order Junshin to run and hide, and we confront Masako and tell her that nothing good comes of us fighting. This is the only time in any side quest line where we fight our own ally, not counting Ryuzo, and I thought this was peak cinema. And of course you can't have a duel without a stunning backdrop and battlefield. During this fight, Masako's true despair leaks out during her dialogue. Her mistrust for everyone leads to mistrusting even us. This whole fight is one of the most emotional ones, and when we defeat her, Jin grabs her sword and sticks it in the ground, showing his trust he still holds for her despite everything. Getting back up, they stand beside each other and face the Mongols that arrive during the fight. The
mongrel intruder
don't last long, and Jin confronts Masako about her behavior. Masako reluctantly shares her reasons as to why, saying all she saw when she looked at Junshin were her dead grandkins, and her friend through all this was protecting him. Out of all the side quest lines, Masako is the one Jin can relate to the most. Between the betrayal of Ryuzo, losing most of his family, seeing death over and over, but he tells her not to let anger cloud her mind. Masako, with guilt, asks if Jin trusts her. He does, but we need to find Junshin. And he tells her not to try what she just did, ever again. Picking up on his trail, we find him in the forest, begging for his life.
Who offered you supplies in exchange for information about Masako?
She called herself Lady Hana.
Liar!
Masako, wait. Who is Lady Hana?
My sister. She was massacred with the rest of my family.
She visited me 2 nights ago, wore a crimson kimono with a golden sash. I remember. She smelled of chrysanthemum.
No. No.
I never told her anything about you. I swear it.
Leave us.
My sister's alive. She murdered the children.
Why would she want to destroy your clan?
I don't know. But I am going to find her.
You don't have to do it alone.
Meet me in Kamiagata.
Now there's one last quest line in Act 2. Yuna has her own fairly short line that we can play through. Expecting to meet her in Yarikawa, we're fairly surprised to spot her here. She says a Mongol warlord named Altan had killed the peasants we see here. This really helps put into perspective how destructive and ruthless the Mongol Empire was. Since the area is in danger, Yuna knows of a friend nearby that she wants to go save. Her friend, Ichi, runs an inn nearby which is already run by Mongols. Yet the peasants are still alive. The first one we talk to tells us to leave, then calls for help before we talk any further. Jin kills the traitor and the following Mongol guards before Ichi comes out of the inn, thankfully unhurt, and seems more upset than thankful that we killed the Mongols. Not that she liked them, but she thinks she's in more danger now than ever, now that they're dead, saying that when Altan finds out, we're in more danger than we should be. She shoos Yuna away, and Jin tries to defend Yuna's heartfelt action since Ichi doesn't trust Yuna. We promise to keep her safe if she tells us where Altan is, but she, nor anyone else, knows where he is. But we can draw him out by killing his allies. The allies we seek are slavers that Ichi says Yuna could tell us more about. Ichi is keen on not trusting Yuna, and thinks we should do the same. But after all we've been through, I don't think so. Talking to Yuna, she mentions the Mamushi brothers, the slavers we're after, who run a slave farm not too far away. Meeting her near the farm, we notice how well defended a simple farm is, but it's only because of how bad of things the Mamushi brothers do there. Yuna knows this place well. Her and Taka were slave children here. This place has affected and clouded her mind her whole life. Between Kichizo, Manzo, and Taizo's Mamushi's treatments, their actions stuck like glue. However, we have to kill them to send a message to Altan, and to rid the world of 3 terrible beasts. Yuna, though, can't bring herself to go in there due to her traumatic experience, so Jin offers to do it alone, so she doesn't need to be reminded of the same pain she felt all those years ago. Our goal is to kill those 3, and only those 3, along with taking their heads from their bodies. All this to draw the Captain Altan from hiding. Yuna will wait out here until we get back. In the meantime, we sneak in and around the Mongols until we get to the first brother, Manzo, tending to the slaves in the field. Catching him off guard, we take him out and cut his head off. Then we find Kichizo, take him out, then Taizo. When we're done, we return to Yuna. Now that she knows her captors are gone and dead, she regrets not taking action when she could have when she was younger. But Jin reassures her that it isn't too late to send a message, stacking them on a pike like a kebab. Then we hide and lure the remaining Mongols out of the camp to see what we did to the monsters. Now that they have a surefire way to draw Altan out, and now that the slaves in the farm are freed, they can rest a little easier. Only one other man from Yuna's past, the Black Wolf, had the slaves before the Mamushi brothers, so we'll be tracking him down next. I forgot to record the first half of the cutscene when we run into Yuna again, but she finds a child's doll on the ground, signifying the Black Wolf is not just a slaver, but a child slaver. We'll head to his camp and kill the Mongols, but Yuna needs to be the one who kills him. Jin plans to head in loud and aggressive to make the Black Wolf feel helpless, to suffer. Then, and only then, can we kill Altan. We sneak in and kill the lookout so he doesn't alert them of our approach. Then we take on the main force, but the Black Wolf is nowhere to be found, although there is a warship not far away, and a smaller boat next to us to row to the warship. When there, we kill each Mongol till he gets snuffed out, and once he does, we let Yuna handle it.
Whatever you think I've done, Altan forced me.
You enslaved children!
No,
You've done it for 20 years! You held me and Taka captive, sold us to the Mamushi slave farm.
Taka. He was my favorite. But the way I remember it, you brought him to me.
I didn't know.
You know, he's yours. Are you alright?
Let's get off this boat. Burn it.
Altan will see this and know we're coming. He'll be forced to act.
Jin. What the Black Wolf said was the truth.
What do you mean?
I met him when we came to Otsuna. He offered me food and a place to stay. I asked if I could bring my brother. He got us drunk. And then... Taka doesn't remember. But I do. I was frozen. I could have killed him. Saved Taka. But I was too scared.
It's not your fault. Because of you, he'll never hurt another child.
I need some time. I'm going back to the inn.
I'll see you there.
Though short, I thoroughly enjoy this quest line, as it gives us a much deeper look into Yuna's past. Running into Ichi, we keep our promise that we'll hunt down Altan and kill him or die trying. Yuna may not be samurai, but she's a real close second. So, we're grabbing the horses and heading off to Altan's camp. Jin knows we're just going into a trap, but that doesn't stop our need to do what we have to. At the camp, we make our move and cut down the Mongols where they stand. Finally, we meet Altan, another Mongol general capable of speaking Japanese, or English depending on which language you chose. We confront him and tell him to face judgment, but he tries to say murdering the Mamushi brothers was also a horrible crime, being Japanese as well. He then tries to taunt us by bringing up why Ryuzo betrayed us. Jin dismisses this and they duel, finally being able to take down such an evil captain in an already evil empire. Once his life has been taken, his dogs try their hand but are no match for Jin and Yuna. Ichi then appears and we speak to her now that Altan has been killed. Even with his death, she still finds a way to be negative and make us seem the antagonist of this endeavor, saying that the ghost is a warrior of fear and will go for the innocent next. Jin denies this as only bad people should be afraid. Ichi leaves with somewhat a positive note, saying we did what we had to, saying goodbye to Yuna. Jin is still a little shaken by the notion that the ghost could really have a negative impact on the island and the islanders' view of him. He thinks they may have crossed the line, but Yuna thinks, even if we did cross a line, that we're still on the right side of it. Okay, I know that was a whole lot of side quests, but they were each very important and impactful. The third part of this series will also start with the side quests, but there will be much less of them, so it won't be too big of a chunk. Now we will move on to the main story and head to Umugi Cove. As we arrive at the largest building in Umugi, we are immediately escorted to the town's leader, Lady Sanjo. However, she isn't the person we're here for. We're here for Goro, Lord Shimura's friend. She tells us Goro is actually just downstairs, drinking his day away. Meeting him downstairs, we bring up his debt he still needs to pay back Lord Shimura. The reason Goro has been drinking so much lately is because he thought Shimura died at Komoda, thinking his debt wouldn't need to be paid anymore. But since that isn't the case, he fulfills his duty and escorts us to his home. His idea is to use one of his boats near Fort Mitodake to sail to the mainland. Handing us a map, we have a plan where to meet him. Just then, a pair of Ronin come looking for Goro. We quickly take action to intimidate the Ronin away. We wrap this mission up by returning to Lady Sanjo and hand her the map we got from Goro. This will promise her people food to continue surviving. We now come back to Lord Shimura and tell him the good Goro news. Even though Goro is a drunk and in Shimura's way, unsavory fellow, he is our most reliable way of providing backup. Thankfully, he knows his way around the sea. Preparing for battle, we wait until night. Once ready, we ride off on horseback. Arriving, Shimura tells us that his father had actually taken it from the people of Yarikawa, which shows the war on Yarikawa wasn't solely on Shimura's hands. Thankfully, Goro kept his word and is ready to set sail after we draw the Mongols' attention. Jin, Shimura, and a few soldiers find an ambush spot to take out the patrol. Killing what's left of them, we head to the front gates and begin the storm. Immediately upon entering the walls, we're shot at by a barrage of fire arrows, but we push through and we don't hold back during the assault. Once we get far enough in, a pair of Mongols fire Hwacha down at us. We dodge through the arrows and the rest of the fort to take out the ones who mounted the Hwacha. Jin and Shimura meet each other atop this tower and spot Goro's boat. Unfortunately, the Mongols' boats have spotted them and Goro might not make it out alive. Thankfully, there is an unmanned Hwacha with us. Sadly, Shimura is disgusted by the thought of this as it isn't our own weapon, but since we can't let Goro be taken out, we have no choice but to use a sick-ass weapon to shoot down the enemy brigade. This part's pretty simple. Just aim and shoot. Even though it's mind-numbingly simple, watching all the arrows fly out satisfies a certain brain itch I just can't explain. So we rain hell down upon the smaller and larger convoys of ships, as well as the smaller camp on the coast, leading to a successful escape to the mainland.
We did it.
I knew we would. You continue to prove the Mongols are not unstoppable.
You taught me to fight. I couldn't disappoint you.
And you never have. I am proud of the warrior, the man you have become. Jin, my message to the Shogun included an announcement. I wish to formally adopt you as my son.
Uncle.
In my heart, you have always been the heir to my legacy. When this war ends, we will make it official. One day, our people will look to you as their leader. You will become their honorable Jito, backed by all the power of the Shogun.
I hope I can serve them as well as you have.
I know you will.
I'm going to use this opportunity to gush about the performances of the game. I already talked about the Cons actor a while ago, but everyone is amazing here, and I'm so happy that nobody phoned it in. Shimura's actor, Eric Steinberg, who apparently played a guy named Rodicius in Lab Rats alongside Naruto, was by far my favorite performance in the game. Daisuke Tsuji and Sumali Montano, Jin and Yuna respectively, were also favorites of mine. I'm also finding out, as of writing this, that Masako's actress, Lauren Tom, is number 3 from Codename Kids Next Door. Like, every variation of her. I know, it's insane to think about. Anyways, back to not having in-game subtitles. We find Yuna and Taka at a camp not too far away from Yarikawa. Here we find out that Yarikawa has somehow been surrounded by Mongols, meaning entry is near impossible for us. However, thankfully, there's a passageway Yuna and Taka would take as children for fun we might be able to go through. Although it's not a certainty, we ride for the town and see for ourselves just how plentiful the Mongols are outside the walls. Yuna thankfully remembers the exact spot of the pathway and points it out, but Taka is too afraid to proceed because of the overwhelming force of the enemy. Reassuring him, we find our way through the camp and manage to get by undetected. Going to the river, we go against the flow towards the waterfall and fit through the very same passage we talked about before, emerging into a group of startled citizens. With Yuna explaining to the guards that they were born here, and seeing a samurai in front of them, they escort us to the front gates, through a very touchy and rough town of people. At the gates is another Mongol general capable of speaking our language. He basically threatens us to surrender or else we'll pay for insubordination. The guards then escort us to the head of Clan Yarikawa, and he is not very happy to see a relative of the clan who put his people to shame. Surprised, however, that Jin of all people is the ghost, he stands firm in that he thinks his people are safe from harm, saying that the Mongols will soon lose interest in a small town. Returning to Taka, we find out that his childhood friend from years ago sadly passed away, and he's taken aback by this. The archers of the town have been missing for a few days, out on a hunt, but gone longer than they should be. So we go out, find them with not much trouble, and notice that they've been gone so long because Mongols captured some of their fighters and have been struggling to get them back. We plan out an ambush strategy to rescue the captives and talk with Taka about what it means to be afraid, that everyone is afraid of something. But once the Mongol squad shows up, we strike and allow Taka to help in combat for once, since he insisted on helping this time. With the archers completely safe and ready to help with the defense of Yarikawa, Yuna pulls us aside and shares her feelings and how upset she is we let Taka fight. She saw a Mongol almost kill him, and since she knows he's not a fighter, she has every reason to worry. But Jin saw that Taka was able to hold his own, and that he did everything perfectly. With them somewhat upset at each other with some out-of-pocket statements, we flip to a moment the next day. A calm before the storm.
You awake too?
I killed the samurai. A chance to a bunch of farmers have.
We have to try.
I think you need this more than me. Kenji spent the rest of the day wearing one sandal.
This is terrible.
My mother loved it. Used to drink it like water. She gets so mad when she ran out. Yelled at us. Where's my tea?
Sounds like a demanding woman.
She broke Taka's arm when he was 6. I took him away. Ran as far from her as we could get. We heard they found her a month later. Face down in the street.
You were brave to protect your brother. Sometimes, our only choice is to walk away from everything we know.
Waking up, we realized the battle had already started. We sprint down to the front gate, and just as we get there, the Mongols bust it down and swarm us. Forced to fight with a large number of inexperienced farmers, we cleave through as many as we can before the other gate is broken through. We get over there as soon as possible and try to save all the lives we can. Strangely, the Mongols retreat, only to spot catapults on a cliff, making our defense all the more troublesome. Jin evades the shot from the catapult, and we decide to take matters into our own hands and disable the catapults before further damage is done. Of course, now the problem is getting back to town, so back through the camp and into the secret entrance we go. Once in, we hear fighting near the main pagoda, where the Mongol general is killing more citizens of Yarikawa. We challenge him to a duel, and once we get him down enough, more of his men appear. In a new and most important way of the Ghost, we slaughter the general in front of his men, which strikes fear in them, and unlocks a new form of combat, the Ghost Stance. After killing a bunch of enemies, we can unleash the power and fear of the Ghost, and one-shot up to 3 enemies, including captains. Jin, Yuna, Taka, and everyone else in Yarikawa go and drive the Mongols out of the walls and successfully win in our defense for Yarikawa.
Yuna! We saved your town. Now, we help Lord Shimura save our island!
We are not soldiers!
Who killed these Mongols? Who stood against the siege? Who saved Yarikawa? We did!
You can't just stay here and wait for the Mongols to try again!
You say you are not soldiers. You are warriors. We can defeat the invaders and save our home, but only if we stand together.
Get our last shot of the Khan's point of view, this time with Ryuzo. Since his best general was taken out, he orders Ryuzo to take action. Since none of his men are strong enough to kill Jin, they'll have to find another way to take us out. While technically I said no more side quests, I wouldn't count what we're about to do as a side quest, as it's very closely related to the main story. We find ourselves at Jin's old home in search of his clan armor, only it isn't there. Just then, Yuriko, our servant from way back in the beginning, jumps out thinking we're a thief before realizing we're her favorite young master from years ago. Thankfully, the estate has been untouched by Mongols, but there has been the occasional bandit. Jin asks Yuriko where his father's, or rather his, armor has gone, and Yuriko wisely hid it away in case someone came to steal it. Leading us away from the estate, she tells us about how it's been having some pest control that was solved with some poison that she crafted, a mystery mouse Cthulhu we'll get to in a bit later. We meet another servant that Yuriko needs help with to retrieve the armor, which gives Jin the chance to pay his respects to his father. Here we have one of the few times where we have a mandatory haiku we need to write, but unlike the philosophical ones we had before, this one is a bit more simple and straightforward, yet still definable enough to mean something. After this, the armor is returned to its podium, and Jin appears very hesitant as it's the first time he's seen it since his childhood, likely since the funeral. He accidentally drops the mask, and once he picks it up, he is once again bombarded with the vision of the day his father died. He's haunted by this because of the fact that he thinks he could have prevented this. But he finally comes to terms with his duty and he places the mask on his face, once again gaining massive aura points. Approaching Yuriko, she is shocked as she thinks she is seeing her old master, Lord Sakai, after years of his passing. Just then, Straw Hat Ronin appear asking for Jin, but they were no match. After watching this, Yuriko is shocked, thinking the ones we killed were from Yarikawa before realizing they were allies to the Mongols. She then asks us to walk with her to a tree by the lake, where we used to spar with our uncle. On the way, Jin asks about her poison she used for the pests, and if they can be used on people, too. Yuriko doesn't think anybody should go out like that, though, and changes the subject as we arrive. When we sit, she tells us how poison is wrong, but Jin needs everything we have to fight the Mongols, since they won't stop at anything either. Since the poison needs to be injected, he suggests a blowgun for proper use. Since she sees the current threat we're up against, Yuriko agrees to tell us what the ingredients are as long as we stay the same person. Yuriko, while not related by blood, does act as a grandmother to Jin. First we need something to make a blowgun, our last range-style weapon we unlock. The materials to make it are across the lake, but apparently there were sites of suspicious activity over there. After taking out the suspicious activity, we grasp the weeds and return to Yuriko, who is weeping for Jin. However, when we interrupt her, she says how she was once again thinking about our father. Jin, as hard-headed as he can be, focuses on the poison and requests we make the blowgun and find the ingredients. After a lovely ride, we arrive at the poison purple plant location and pick them for Yuriko. Handing them to her, she gives us step-by-step on how to prepare them for combat. Once prepared, we're actually able to test these out immediately, since a group of Straw Hats tracked us here. These are quite simple and fun to use, but there's another poison that's just a little bit more fun. We reassure Yuriko that the Ronin are gone. She of course still thinks we're a young child who thinks we need to be taken care of, but with her old body it's about time Jin takes care of her. Yuriko, though, is convinced she's fine and needs no help. Now, the side quest really starts here, where we can unlock a new poison that can manipulate the minds of enemies. But Yuriko can't recall what the ingredients are. All she can recall is that they're flowers, and that they were planted at the family cemetery. Jin remembers those as spider lilies, often in Japanese symbolism as the flower of death. She then leads us to a cemetery, but for some reason she took us to the wrong one. They are actually located at a separate branch of the family cemetery. On the way to that one, she requests we stop to meditate at the lakeside. She remembers this lake as a very important place in her life, where she would spend a lot of time with Jin's mother. When meditation time is over, we ride for the correct cemetery. Mongols have desecrated it, and Yuriko can't bear to get the flowers herself because of it. Now that we have it all, Yuriko will make it. After we ride with her to the Shimura cemetery, because she wants more time with us. On the way, we see a Ronin camp, where we can test out our new hallucination darts. Now, the poison darts are fun, but these are really fun. All you do is shoot and watch as the enemies fight each other. With Yuriko scared that the Shimura cemetery is in ruin too, We head there and see that the war has left it untouched. Once here, we put together another haiku, this time about how the strongest walls can be destroyed by war, and that everyone dies in the end. Jin recommends we move back over to Omi village, to the estate, but Yoriko refuses. She sits here and tells us that Kazumasa, Jin's father, thought Shimura cared too much for this castle, since Kazumasa thought of power as something bigger, more important than that of a building. We see that Yoriko actually equates power to water, something so strong and so powerful. It shapes the world around us, carves rock, and bends the ground. She, of course, still wants to go to one more spot before going back to Omi village, but when we talk to her, she starts coughing really bad. Realizing her health issue, Jin insists on her traveling to a doctor, but she refuses to go unless we go with her to her last spot. Claiming it's close by, she promises we'll worry about her health after we go there. Mistaking us for our younger selves again, we walk with her to a hot spring, wanting to see its beauty. Jin asks for the significance of this spot, and Yoriko thinks we're burdening us because of it. Then, she mistakes us for Kazumasa again, speaking about his concern for Lady Sakai in a much younger Jin. And Jin, succumbing to the truth of how long it's been since Yoriko ate, asks her to rest here while we go out to find food for her. But as soon as we get back, she's gone, missing. We follow her trail far off into the woods, thankfully unharmed, but supposedly claiming she got lost trying to follow her mother, who is long since dead. Yoriko still wants to stay out, but this time to make an offering to her mother's grave. And Jin, coming to terms with all of this, accepts. They travel together to a cliff, overlooking miles of the island, spotting many landmarks from just here. Yoriko, speaking to Jin, to Kazumasa, reminisces of the night Jin got lost in a forest and nearly died from sickness. This was after Kazumasa lost the love of his life, and his mentality had already been in shambles. Yoriko stayed with Jin, like glue after then, spending every day near each other, grandmother and grandson. She loved and cared for the boy, wanting us to look out on the island of Tsushima. She recalls memories of her life before. And then...
Now tell me what you see. Yuriko? Rest, Yuriko. The strength we need is all around us. The mighty fall at last, to be no more than dust before the wind.
The tragic, yet wholesome tale of Yoriko comes to an end. Now we will return to Lord Shimura at his camp. Here he informs us of orders from the Khan himself, addressed to Ryuzo. The Straw Hat Ronin are supposed to strike their camp, so we need to take them out before they have the opportunity to, over at Fort Koyo-san. Speaking to Yuna and Taka, we remember Shimura's promise that the two would be leaving for the mainland. Jin asks her for help regardless and promises she'll be back in time before the boat leaves in the morning. Yuna, as helpful as she's been, insists that they'll be leaving and wishes us the best of luck. Now we say goodbye to Yuna and Taka, and we'll see them next when they depart the island. When Jin arrives at the fort, we scout ahead for an... oh, Taka actually followed us here. Taka wants to help Jin infiltrate, but we know Taka is under-equipped to handle this. Standing with the ghost, he offers to make a distraction to lure the Mongols and Ronin out of the camp. With a plan in mind, Taka rides down and insults the enemy, then rides away back to Shimura's camp. Alone, Jin sneaks in and finds Ryuzo within the walls, demanding to fight. Ryuzo mentions that the Khan would like to have a word with us, But since Jin refuses the idea, another Straw Hat knocks us out. When we awaken, Taka is here too, tied up, saying he came back to try and help us. But when we try to break out of the bindings...
Taka, be brave.
You must be thirsty. Hot egg. Milk from my favorite horse. The final gift to me. She broke her egg yesterday, so I fed her to my men. We do what we must, Lord Sakai. That is why you and I are both survivors.
I am samurai.
No, you are more than that. You are the ghost. Convince your people to join me, and I will give them peace.
We will never serve you.
Your uncle said the same thing when I asked him to end this war.
He refused to be your slave.
I too have pride in family. And I know what it's like to live in their shadow. Why should we settle for scraps when we deserve to be legends?
He is a legend.
See? Your people will follow you. Join me and save them.
You want to divide and conquer. You did it to Ryuzo. Not us.
Oh. Your legend does not even care about you. If you kill him, you can go.
Run.
Your friend died for you. Now I must find another, and you must choose again.
Jin, blinded by his emotions, breaks free from the post. Going to grab his gear, he swears to kill them all. He swears revenge for Taka on all the Ronin here. With the nearby Ronin dead, Jin tries to leave the inner walls of the fort. Then, Yuna arrives, telling us that Khotun Khan and Ryuzo were seen riding away from here, and she came looking for Taka. When she sees him, we hear a cry of sorrow echo throughout the land. Taka came here and died here because he wanted to prove himself to us, to be like us, like the ghost. And just then, the rest of the Straw Hat Ronin show up, and we wipe out every single one of them. The Straw Hat Ronin, barring Ryuzo, are no more. Before we escape the premises, Yuna demands Taka has a burial. Offering help, we take his body to a fitting, beautiful spot. Apologizing, Jin asks Yuna once more to help him kill the last of the Mongols. Since Yuna has no reason to desert the island, she agrees to help the cause once more.
Was Taka brave? At the end?
He was always brave.
Returning to the camp, we see the Shogun's army has arrived. With everyone here and ready, we will soon make our march on Kazushima. Yuna confirms with us that Yarikawa will indeed be there when we leave to fight, because of Jin's endeavors to help them out. They believe in the ghost, and Jin keeps his promise to keep them alive at all costs. When speaking to our uncle, he congratulates us on our victory. We tell him about what happened at the fort, and are extremely shocked at how we made it out alive. But nonetheless, he informs us that the Shogun has accepted Shimura's decision to adopt Jin. Of course, it means we will have to drop the ghost and fully return to the correct path of the samurai. As a proper family, we ready ourselves for the assault. Once morning hits, the overwhelming force of the samurai ride into the front lines and drive the Mongols from Toyotoma. Taking the pawns in front is nothing too hard, but now we have to break the first doors down with a battering ram. Ready for this, we're shot at with flaming artillery, but are still no match for Jin and Shimura. With the second gate in the way, we break it down and rush them. Out of reach are a few more archers above ground, but when I went up to deal with them, somebody had already shot them down. Oh well. Up here, we're able to see what lies beyond the gate. A massive amount of Mongols, too extreme for our force to get through unscathed. Jin decides to take them out with poison and make our lives a little easier, then jumps down to slaughter the general and scare off the rest of in front of us. Shimura witnesses this act of terror and is appalled. Distraught with our brutal ways of combat, he scolds our actions and tells us samurai never fight with terror. The conversation doesn't last long since a Hwacha bombards us. Telling us to take it out with honor, we do exactly that and use the weapon to clear the way for the rest of our army. We push through to an open area and take out the last of the Mongols. Many retreat across the bridge and we celebrate a bit too early. We see the Mongols set explosive to a group of horses that burst through the gate, taking out many of our forces on the way, then proceeding to blow up the bridge, making further advancements impossible. Not giving up, Shimura demands we rebuild the bridge and strike when dawn hits. Jin knows this will be a bad idea and strongly suggests we go in another way. Shimura, already on his last nerve, pulls us aside to discuss it. He thinks the Mongols will do nothing and wait for an attack when we make our move. Seeing that Shimura doesn't care about the lives we lost, Jin suggests again he takes his way and goes in safe and quietly. Shimura taught us to fight with honor, not terror. Jin doesn't feel the same way about honor since Komoda Beach. He lets his emotions fight with him, and sees this as a weakness in Shimura that he doesn't. But Shimura lashes out and hits us, proving Jin's point exactly. We leave Shimura behind and do the plan ourselves, talking to Yuna near a hole in the wall. We ask her about how much Wolfsbane, our poison, she can find so we can make the Mongols suffer. We're doing this knowing Shimura will have a few words to say about this, but we have no choice. Before we split, we got one last gift from Taka before he died. When we leave, Yuna gives us all the poison she was able to find, and we don the ghost armor from Taka. We find a pathway under the bridge and climb up to a smaller pagoda. At the top, we can scout ahead for a plan. We spot a trap at the front gate that our army will run straight into when the bridge is repaired. We also see where to poison the drinks, and Ryuzo as well. We sneak around the back and reach their milk, dumping the poison into it. After waiting long enough for all the Mongols to drink the poison, we witness firsthand what consuming the poison does to you. They cough up their own blood and writhe in pain. When the last of them are on the ground, we come out and stand among them, watching the true horror we've laid upon them. Somewhat regretful of the path we chose, we shake it off and proceed to the main pagoda to face Ryuzo. He tells us the Khan has left him here to fight us, but he tries to join us and asks us that we face Khotun Khan together. But with everything Ryuzo has done to Jin and the people of Tsushima, he refuses, telling him to surrender and pay for his crimes. Though Ryuzo knows he can't do that, and they prepare to fight each other. Best childhood friends, forced to fight against each other one last time. Since Ryuzo can't let himself be killed by surrendering, we are each other's obstacle. However, once we finally beat him in Mortal Kombat, we see this.
Jin, please.
Goodbye, Yuzo. Yuzo.
Good.
The castle is yours. The Khan marches north. We can head him off.
You defied me!
I did what I had to. For them.
Is this how you want to be remembered?
He defended us.
By spreading fear and chaos!
We are at war.
And you are acting like the enemy. This is not our way.
Your way can't save our people.
The Shogun will demand a head. But it does not have to be yours. I know she drove you to this.
Uncle.
Renounce the ghost. You must blame her for this outrage. Tell them. You are Jin Shimura. Loyal servant to the Shogun. My heir. My son.
I am not your son. I am the ghost.
And you will be judged for it.
Find the Khan.
Jin.
Futaka. Go!
After being imprisoned, a few days later, Kenji of all people shows up and tempts the guard on standby with sake, leading him out of the building. Turns out, this is a jailbreak, because he says if we stay here, we're supposed to be taken to the Shogun to be judged for our insubordination as a samurai, telling us that we need to see Yuna, who has her sword up in the final region, Kamiagata. We plan to find a way to move our friends into the region. Our destination is the village Kin, where we'll meet Yuna. We sneak out and go past all the samurai to find our trusty horse Nobu and flee the castle with him.
There he is! On the horse! Stop him! Get him forward! Forgive me, Nobu. We have to reach Ken. Yuna's waiting for us. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you.
The one who's been with us our entire journey from the very beginning, our trusty steed, Nobu, is gone, but will never be forgotten. Died by our side, helping us in the very end. With a grave properly dug, Jin rises and begrudgingly keeps moving towards Kin to find Yuna. We see when we approach that the village and its sacred tree have all been burned to the ground, with no villagers left alive to be found. With limitations to our arsenal, we can't afford to confront the Mongols lingering in town. Finding a fallen tree and crossing it to the spot where we were supposed to meet Yuna, she obviously isn't here, but there are other bodies here with no visible weapon marks on them. There are more bodies outside of the tree with pungent blood spilling from their mouths. Their body smells of Jin's poison, Wolfsbane. Just as we put the pieces together that the Mongols figured out how to craft and distribute the poison, we're shot in the back by a poison arrow. We try to stumble away as hard as possible, but we succumb to the poison and we collapse on the bridge. Just as we start fading out, we hear a faint shout from Yuna coming to save us at the last second. She thankfully nurses us back to health. Guess the Mongols didn't perfect the poison before applying it to the weapons. Suspecting the enemy had used the poison on the people of Kin, our final act will have us focus our efforts to face the Khan once and for all. Yuna knows his base of operations is at Port Izumi on the east coast of the Kamiagata region. But before we do anything, we need our own base of operations, and we need our gear, which Yuna has thankfully kept safely for us. When we're geared up, we regroup with Yuna and spot a temple in the distance we can use as a stronghold with our army. Since it's taken by Mongols, we need to prepare for battle, but first, we need a new ride to get to and fro easily. For now, we will be riding around on a simple stable horse. When we're close enough, we spot a fishing house near the temple with a handful of Mongols and tied up prisoners. There's also a signal cannon we can use to draw the temple Mongols toward us when we're done here. When the prisoners are free, we look out over the frozen lake and spot some explosives we could use against the Mongols. We follow through with using the signal cannon to alert the Mongols, and when they mistakenly run across the frozen lake, we ambush them with the bomb and kill the stragglers who manage to survive it. Heading to the main temple, we find a quieter way in with the frozen waterfall. We get the jump on the captain and save the temple from these monsters. Now that we have set up a safe haven for the people of Kamiagata, Jin starts to think about his actions back at Castle Shimura. He knows the path he chose and he can't go back. But the ghost has to use every unpredictable tactic he can to kill the Khan. We need to find a way to move our group into this region, and since Castle Shimura is a no-go, our options are limited. There is a fort on the west coast, but it's heavily guarded. We'd never take it by ourselves. Thankfully, Yuna knows of a group of hunters she used to hang with that reside in this region. We'll be able to use their leader and his men to get in while Yuna sneaks back to Omi village to meet our friends. We'll meet next when we bombard the fort. We do find Takashi, the leader of the hunters, and introduce ourselves to him. Before anything else, we tell him Yuna sent us. We fill him in on the details about our plan of attack, but Takashi can't just risk his men's lives for no good reason. In exchange, Jin offers to let him and his men be allowed to stay at the fort for survival. As long as it's a safe place to sleep, they're in. He takes us over to the cliff to plan our assault. Since the Mongols watch the gates day in and day out, Along with going in and out of the place, we'll be going in a more hidden way. We can use our grapple to climb the cliffs around the fort. There's a rundown woodcutter's camp we'll meet Takashi at. Him and his men apparently took hours to get up, maybe 30 feet, but we make it look like it's child's play. Our strategy to take them out is to send most of the force to the ridge to snipe the enemy from above, while we sneak in. So Jin grabs a few soldiers and we hop over a few buildings before striking. We don't have time to sit around observing the atrocities these Mongols have done, and when we find a place to hide, we get the jump on the next group of Mongols that show up. We then spot a fire in the distance at the south gate. Our friends made it. We can't cross the bridge due to the enemy's hwacha, and our only way through is Taka's hook. Thank the Buddha he left us with such an amazing and helpful tool. Now that we've cleared the way, we advance to our friends. On the way, Takashi realizes we're the ghost. Apparently there's a rumor floating around that we're supposed to be some kind of 10-foot tall demon. Don't know how that one started, but with the force finally reunited, we get to speak with our group once again. Kenji immediately complains about the cold, which he'll have to get used to. Any supplies we find here will go back to the people at Jogaku Temple, and we have mission success. We confront Yuna about Takashi and his men, as we suspect they're more than hunters, but since they've proved themselves, we're allowing them to stay and hold the pass as long as they don't disappoint us in the future. Since we have all the people we need, our goal is to move back to Jogaku Temple and start our plan on how to attack the Khan. But before that, like I said in part 2, we'd go over the side quests, and there are much less of them this time, so don't worry. But before that, remember in Act 2 when I said there was a ghost weapon I'd talk about later? Well, here we are. Throughout the game, you'll find special side quests called Mythic Tales that will grant you with either new armor sets, abilities in combat, or in this case, a new ghost weapon. Each of these quests will open with a cinematic style very similar to old Japanese art styles you might find on scrolls or walls. Here, we'll unlock the ability to set our sword aflame mid-combat, like how the Mongols have been able to do, as you may have seen. Attacks with a flaming sword will go straight through shields and deal massive damage. We unlock this by going up a frozen mountain and dueling the man who protects a meteorite said to help set your weapons alight. Now then, since she only has one last quest in her line, we'll head straight to Masako, saying her prayers alone to her ancestors. She's made up her mind on what she's about to do to her sister. She was able to track down her final location to Clan Kikuchi's fort. With no more incense left to burn and no more prayers to make, we're ready to ride out. On the way, we actually start to piece together why her sister betrayed the clan. First, the reason she is at Fort Kikuchi is because she married a man named Ikeda, who is a retainer for the clan. Hana had dreamt of owning an estate of her own, and since Masako held the Adachi one, she had no choice but to be married off. This old Kikuchi estate, however, has a new clan there, with an emblem matching the one from the letter. When Masako and Hana were younger, bandits attacked their estate, and before the samurai came to rescue them, Masako had dealt with them all on her own. The samurai that arrived, Harunobu Adachi, saw what happened, and he fell in love with Masako. This is where Hana's hatred started, since she was jealous of what Masako had. To make it up to her, Masako arranged the marriage between Ikeda and Hana and sent her away. That's all we know so far, but we'll know everything else soon enough. In front of the fort are some guards who immediately attack us upon noticing Masako, but we're not in any mood to be lagging behind, and we enter the fort. There are plenty of peasants here that seem to be living in protection, unassociated with Lady Hana. Masako calls out for her and more samurai come out. Asking one of the peasants, she tells us Hana is further up the hill in the estate. Up here is where we finally confront Lady Hana, who taunts Masako over faking her own death. She makes a statement that assumes she was planning on killing Harunobu Adachi as well. Trying to rid herself of us again, she sicks her guards on us. Jin focuses on taking them out, but Masako ignores them and chases Hana inside. We follow behind her to watch their final conversation.
You murdered my children. My grandchildren. Destroyed my family.
A small price to pay for what you've done.
I have done nothing.
You stole everything. Drove me from our home. Took the life that was rightfully mine. Left me with that abusive drunk in this frozen land. You would have to suffer an eternity of pain to understand the life I've lived. The life you forced on me.
None of that is my fault.
It is! And damn you for acting as if it isn't. You've come to kill me, so finish this. It will be your only kindness.
I can't end your suffering. But you can.
Now, you have nothing!
I never mourned my family. I've tried to honor them, meditate on treasured memories, but she consumes them. Even now, I have nothing left.
No. You've accomplished what you set out to do. You have honored your family, given them justice. Now you can find peace.
This path does not lead to peace.
Where does it lead?
I don't know. I have to continue walking it to find out.
I don't want you to go.
I must. But I will be there when you need me.
Vengeance didn't bring her anything but pain, even in the last moments she had with her sister, who cursed her in her final moments before stabbing herself. But this questline gives us a great lesson in that no matter how dire your need for revenge is, it will never make you feel whole again. At Jogoku Temple, we get to meet up with Ishikawa. His skill with the bow used to influence the people of Tsushima into thinking he'd become the world's next Tadayori, before he died, of course. Even with his failures of Tadayori Nagao and Tomoe, Jin still appreciates his efforts to teach him the proper way of the bow, which sets a perfect example that not every student of his was a failure. Ishikawa had never made time to make a family, but Tomoe was the closest he ever had to a daughter. When someone devotes their life to one specific thing, it could ruin their chances at everything else, which is exactly what Ishikawa feels with being a samurai. Tomoe is still out there, so our hunt must continue. She's somewhere in Kamiagata, so we split up in search of her. On one of the frozen mountains is a burnt down Mongol convoy with Japanese arrows shot in their backs, likely done by Shimura's men. Before further examination, a woman named Matsu startles Jin, a feat not many can do. She asks if we were with the one who killed these Mongols, who happens to be Ishikawa. She claims to have run into him after he killed these Mongols, and she offered him a place to stay after he comes back from an urgent mission. Assuming he got Tomoe's tail, we request we wait at her home till he comes back. Before that, she needs to check her snares first for food, since a storm is coming quickly. The first snare isn't too far, but it's empty because Matsu thinks by not having any bait, she'd trick the animals into going in. But this tactic doesn't work on anything else other than people. The next is a bit further away, and during this, Matsu fills us in on her reasons for living in such harsh conditions, with both having no more family to turn to and fleeing to colder conditions when the Mongols first landed ashore. Filling her in that we're Shimura's nephew, she puts the pieces together that we're the ghost. She also mentions that we're supposed to be a 10-foot tall demon. God, where did this rumor even start, man? She mentions we're too handsome to be a demon, and right when we approach the second snare, we spot some bandits taking the food. Since it's cold and Jin assumes they're starving, he talks to them and finds they've been eating grass and bark for days. This is the one chance they have to eat real meat. Jin lets them go and Matsu is irritated. We sacrifice food for them, meaning we need to go and grab the final snare. It's the furthest away and the blizzard is getting closer. We waste no time riding off, and while we ride, we're asked what it means to be the ghost. Jin regrets his decisions, but he knows what must be done for the island's safety. Thankfully, the last snare has some food in it for us to take and no bandits for them to take from us. Before we depart, Matsu looks out over the ocean and tells us how she wishes to move to the mainland, where it's free of war. She wants to start her life over and live a life of luxury in the peaceful town of Kyoto. Make connections with all the citizens while her underlings steal their valuables. By now, the storm has arrived and we need to ride to Matsu's home, hoping to meet back up with Ishikawa here.
You seem too kind to be the ghost. But the way you killed those Mongols...
I do what I have to for Tsushima.
The truth is, we're both survivors. We have darkness in us. If we didn't, we'd be dead.
Sensei Ishikawa said something similar. But it sounds more natural coming from you, Tomoe.
Ishikawa always said, I underestimate my opponents.
I don't have an arrow in my back. Why not?
The Mongols turned against me.
After you trained them to slaughter our people.
A mistake I tried to fix. But I can't kill all my archers. Not alone.
You need me. And the sensei. But we don't need you.
I know where they'll attack next. We can ambush them together. You get a victory, I get revenge.
I'll talk it over with Sensei Ishikawa.
Jin, you can stay the night.
No, Tomoe. I can't.
We find Ishikawa at Jokaku and tell him about our run-in with Tomoe. He's confused as to why we didn't kill her, but since her archers are becoming too strong, we need to work with her to take them out once and for all. Since she didn't kill Jin when she had the chance, we have no reason not to believe her. Ishikawa can't trust her, but Jin doesn't trust her either. But the situation exceeds trust, and we have no choice but to team up for this Avengers-level threat. This is the only quest that directly asks you to return to a former region in the entire game, which gives this quest some uniqueness to it. Ishikawa is posted up at a burnt-down homestead, informing us that when we meet Tomoe, she'll tell us where we'll face the Mongols. She's held up not too far from Umugi Cove in a gambling den. Ishikawa tries to plan out a self-defense strategy before Tomoe immediately calls us in, exclaiming she has no need to kill us. In the den, Ishikawa and Tomoe talk to each other for the first time in months. Being sure of herself was one skill Ishikawa never had to teach her. With no more time to spare, she informs us that the Mongols will be attacking none other than Umugi Cove. The reason she needs our help is because the Khan had betrayed her. Ishikawa doubts her, but if we don't act, then we'll deal with the consequences of our non-actions. Just then, we hear the Mongols have found us, and we officially team up for battle. When they're dispatched, Ishikawa tries to find every reason to incriminate Tomoe, like ordering the Mongols to attack us in a smoke and mirror attempt. Jin can't take any more of their bickering, so he breaks it up and requests we focus our efforts on Umugi Cove. With tense air and a bitter taste in his mouth, Ishikawa cooperates and we leave. Now we finally learn why she turned in the first place. She killed innocent people to put them out of their misery because they were being tortured. We know we have to stay off the road on the way to further keep the citizens safe from harm. Cutting through the field of the equinox flower, she tells us that she told her men not to attack us when we were searching for her in Toyotama. This turned out to be a good thing, since if we hadn't, Tomoe would have been set up to make more camps for the Mongols. In the field are a few more Mongols that we have no trouble taking out. Tomoe then compliments our success similarly to how Ishikawa does it. Finding a place to hide, we spot a convoy hunting for Tomoe that she hadn't mentioned prior to our team up. We think it's a better idea to rest until nightfall since the Mongols wouldn't attack at night, since they need time to position their archers. We get some shut-eye, and when we awaken, we officially make our move. Tomoe takes the lead so we can find the best way through. There's a few patrols ahead that we can take out for precaution. After these Mongols are taken out, Tomoe compliments Ishikawa's technique during combat, and Ishikawa does the same, learning about Tomoe's new style she executes. We now find the bulk of the Mongols will have to circle around to not alert them. Jin leads the way, and we are able to find a pathway to remain unseen by the Mongols. As we get further in, we see the archers are stanced up in front of the pathway into Amugi Cove. Tomoe sees some explosive barrels she plans to shoot with a flaming arrow. She knows it may put herself in danger, but she needs to repay the people of Tsushima in one way or another. She finds a place to shoot her arrow, and we get the jump on the Mongols. Once they're all gone, we regain our bearings. Then we notice that after combat, Tomoe is nowhere to be found. Ishikawa saw her near the pathway to Amugi a few moments before the battle ended. We try to assume the best and say she was trailing Mongols that headed that way in case Amugi Cove is still in danger. We run the path into Amugi, but during our chase, Jin realizes that there are smugglers in town that can aid in her advancements to sailing to Kyoto and leaving Tsushima for good.
Wait.
Sensei Ishikawa, we have judged each other harshly, but the Buddha tells us that our greatest enemies can be our best teachers.
I am grateful for your teaching, and for the chance to fight by your side a final time. I have been your student. I would have become your daughter. But the way of the bow is behind me now. What lies ahead? I am like an arrow, shot from a bow. Who knows where the wind will take me?
It's over.
Maybe she'll reach Kyoto after all.
If she were anyone else, I'd say that's impossible.
We still have a war to finish, a home to rebuild.
I have no more lessons to give in this life, except one. Promise me, you won't repeat my mistakes.
I promise, Sensei.
Ishikawa's questline, like I said, isn't my favorite, but the ending of the line still teaches us the meaning of trust, and the trauma of dealing with failures that affect you your entire life. Lastly, and I mean at this time no fake outs, is Norio. Only we don't find him right here, but a monk preaching for the Mongol cause. He tells us it's for his own safety from the Mongols themselves, but that he prays Norio will put that torture to an end. He knows where we can talk to Norio and leads the way to his location. He's currently planning an attack on Cedar Temple with the warrior monks from Akashima, since the Mongols have taken it, and he fills us in on the game plan. Cedar Temple is our last-ditch effort for a beacon of hope for the citizens of Tsushima. And not just that, but those of us who take it back will also be remembered as respected warriors. We plan to ride at dawn with all our monks with us. We depart with a fire in our hearts and a passion to take back what's ours. On the way, we find the warrior monks from Kushi Temple as well, ready to join the fight. With no moments to waste, it's time to fight once and for all. Jin, Norio, and the rest of our force fight valiantly and win a victory for the temple. The last thing we need to do is make sure nothing else has been broken in the temple. There's a monk at the main hall who begs we don't enter and collapses on the floor. Jin and Norio, though, choose to investigate regardless.
Nothing damaged or stolen.
Norio.
Angel? When they took you out of the pit, I thought...
Mongols promised to spare you. If I told them everything.
I'm here, Angel. It's all right now.
I told them about the abbot. Ochi, Kuchitsera, in Akashima.
It doesn't matter.
Norio, I held on to see you. But I can't live like this.
Yes, you can.
Please, brother. Breathe.
Lord Sakai, would you leave us?
Yes.
His name is Kharcho, the one who burned my brother, then cut off his limbs.
This Haricho is among the dead?
Not yet.
Norio, your brother was the Guardian. He died a hero.
No, he didn't. I can find out where this Mongol coward is. But then I'll need your help.
You'll have it.
When the snow lets up, we'll hold the funeral.
The very man who had inspired Norio his entire life was tortured and treated worse than garbage. Kharchu will taste the same pain Enjo felt, but not until we meet back up with Norio. We ask a nearby monk for his location and learn he left to deliver Enjo's remains to a cemetery. Now we can charge into the finale of my favorite quest line. We find our horse and ride off to meet him mourning the loss of his brother. Norio has found the location of Kharchu, whom is at a fort on the coast. Jin sees the path Norio is heading down and urges him to remain a beacon of hope for the warrior monks. But Norio is tunnel visioned. Since we can't influence him any other way, we agree to come and help him. We first need to find a place to rest until nightfall for an ambush. The camp we need to stay at, however, has a few hungry bandits who flee as soon as we get there. Norio attempts to chase them down, but we keep him at bay, explaining that they weren't a threat, even if they were thieves. Once night hits and we can get some rest, Norio quotes the prayer that was carved into his naginata by Enjo. Enjo had a will stronger than any other. So strong, he was able to endure so much pain for so long, just so he could see his brother one last time. Norio tells us Enjo's last words that Jin never heard, saying, "I was wrong." But since Enjo was gone, we may never know what he meant by that. But he ensures that Kharchu will not be so lucky as to have any final words, recommending we get some much needed rest. We save our strength for when we fight Kharchu and turn over for the night. In the middle of the night though, we wake up and realize Norio is gone, only to ride up to the fort to see it in flames. As we approach, a monk at the entrance tells us that Norio had gone in by himself, in an enraged stupor so bad that it frightened the monks. The further we go in, the more atrocities we find, between howls of pain and Mongols running away in flames. And we catch up to Norio just as he's burning Kharchu alive.
You once told me you would never swing your naginata in hatred.
I did what the ghost would do. And now Kharchu is gone. I'm not going back to Cedar Temple. Not after this.
Where will you go?
It doesn't matter. He was still alive when I lit the wood. When he screamed, it filled me with joy. And I would do it again. I'm no longer a monk.
You don't get to give up. We all have regrets and broken promises. But this island needs you. The last warrior monk of Cedar Temple.
I can't go back to what I was before this.
I'm not asking you to go back. I'm asking you to keep your faith and move forward.
Thank you, Jin.
I'll see you at Cedar Temple.
Our last quest line is another of tragedy and revenge. One that teaches us the importance of never letting hatred cloud your mind in search for an advancement in your endeavors. But, like I said, that's all for the side quests. Each hold such amazing writing and character development that I would never want to miss out on doing them when I replay this masterpiece. These aren't just side quest lines. They're stories that you watch unfold right in front of you. They're experiences that you could never replicate or feel again. But we have a story of our own to wrap up. Off to Yuna we go. Our force is ready to attack whenever we are, but first, we actually need a plan to get in with as little resistance as possible. In order to find a weakness and strategize, we wait until night and scout ahead at the port. At Port Izumi, there happens to be a lighthouse we can use to get a good view of the place. The Khan plans to use this port to sail to the mainland, which is something we cannot allow to happen. Around this spot, we also spot the poison that Jin uses, which shows where the Mongols are producing them from. We find a way to sneak around the back and get into the lighthouse and see an entire barrel's worth of poisonous flowers inside. With as much poison as they have, it'll be more than enough to wipe out the island. And worse, all of Japan itself. At the top of the lighthouse, we spot strange occurrences in the waves. A storm is coming, which means even if the Mongols wanted to leave now, they couldn't because the waters would be too rough. We plan to use that to our advantage. There's a spot we could mount a few watches and a village we could set an ambush at. Then, at the end of the port is the harbor master's estate, likely where the Khan is posted up. He has all the weapons he needs to attack the mainland. Explosives, poison, and as many soldiers as he needs. But with our ambush strategy and the storm at our side, we have the perfect opportunity to strike when we have all the supplies we need. Our friends will make a distraction while Jin sneaks in and confronts the Khan. We leave back to Jogaku to tell the others. Thankfully, Kenji was able to get info on where we can get a few watches. The only thing we need is more numbers on our side. We only have one option left, and Yuna thinks it's suicide if we even try to get Shimura to help us. Even though we don't see eye to eye, the both of us do have an overarching goal to kill the Khan. Jin is willing to sacrifice everything just to be able to kill the Khan, even if that means his life. Jin will write a message and sneak his way into Shimura's living quarters and hope he agrees to help us. Jin writes up a, hopefully, convincing message, and before we head out to deliver it, Yuna offers to give us a new horse suitable for a warrior. All the options are good, but in remembrance of Nobu, I chose the one that looked most like it. Our new and final horse's name is Kaze, Wind. There's a wall that Jin used to climb as a kid at the back of the castle we should be able to scale without much trouble. As we approach the castle, Jin remembers a time he spent with Shimura here, where he was troubled with a comment Ryuzo told him, saying that once Shimura had his own kid, he tossed Jin immediately. Even as a kid, Ryuzo was still a harsher individual. But Shimura planned on doing no such thing. because of how much he cares for Jin. He may have thought of Jin as a son much longer than we thought. We come back to Jin once night falls, and we find the scalable cliffside Jin used back in the day. Since we can't kill any guards at the castle, we definitely have to make sure we remain unseen. We take the same path we took before when we initially came here with our uncle. At the castle, we see Shimura with our own eyes and climb up the pagoda while remaining hidden. We overhear Shimura speaking with some other samurai after delivering a speech. Shimura does in fact plan to eliminate the Khan before he reaches the mainland. And he also doesn't want to hear the mention of our own name, since not just the Mongols, but bandits have learned our poison and are using it on the citizens. With that horrid news out of the way, we manage to reach his quarters and deliver the message.
He's here! Guards!
Uncle, forgive me for not facing you in person. The Khan's fleet has gathered at Port Izumi. His ships are loaded with poison that will devastate the Shogun's army. But when the next storm arrives, I plan to kill the Khan and sink his fleet. I ask that you join me. I hope we can meet again. If not as father and son, then as warriors who have walked different paths. Whatever you believe I've become, I will always be your family.
Yuna was worried we wouldn't come back, but thankfully we did. There's no way to tell if Shimura is going to cooperate, but we won't sit around for an answer. The storm is upon us. By morning it'll be here, and the Hwachas are well and prepared for the siege. We did, however, pick up some deserters from Shimura's army, who will help the cause. We are ready, but our friends want to have a last-minute inspiration check from the ghost. When that's all done, we talk to Yuna again about how far we've come. Through all the bleeding and fighting, and every friend we lost along the way, we give a final thank you to Yuna for all she's done for us. Our duty won't stop here, though Yuna wants Jin to stay alive and flee with her to a safe haven. Jin knows her better than that, and has her come to her senses, and asks her to finish what we start if we fall in battle. Before we depart, they sit down and cherish more time together. At Port Izumi, the time is nigh and our siege weapons are ready to put the Mongols to shame. We plan to use the weapons to draw the Mongols into our position and ambush them. Sadly, Shimura is nowhere to be found, but this is our only chance. No more waiting. We let the flames rain down upon them and rush down the Mongols coming our way. They never knew what hit them, and our overwhelming troops wiped the floor with them. We regroup with the others, and Masako tells us about Norio's position up the hill. We move away to help him out and ensure the safety of all the warrior monks. He's safe, and Jin gives his final words of inspiration to the group. We fought all this way, killed everyone who stood in our path, and sacrificed everything, just for things to come down to this.
You are all the bravest warriors I've ever known. I hope to see you again.
They will handle the brunt of the attack, and we are sneaking in through a frozen river. In the walls of the port, we have to sneak around to find a watchtower, eliminating the Mongols who are in the way. At the top of the tower, we get a good look at the port up close.
Khotun Khan.
Tsushima! No mercy!
Shimura pulled through, but we can't celebrate just yet. We have to reach the Khan once and for all.
All this death. Because you and your uncle would not surrender.
I offered you peace, and you chose war! Now, the people of your mainland will suffer.
You will never leave this island.
During our duel, the Khan tries to mock Jin on his actions up to this point, but Jin's mind is clearer than ever, as is his resolve. We cut him down to his last legs, and then we watched him stumble around like an idiot. We try to finish him off, but he tosses something in our face. More of his men come up and try to defend him, while he flees to the ship. These two won't stand in our way, however, when we put them down, chasing the Khan to the ship. On board, he's surrounded by his men, and challenges us one last time. I'm not sure if you saw, but when we dueled, I took no damage on my first try. Not only that, this entire finale with the Khan, I took only one hit, which is crazy because I struggled my first time playing this, even though it was in a lower difficulty at the time. Regardless, you don't actually have to fight the other men here and can focus on the Khan, who doesn't have a fun time fighting us. Jin puts him out with a flaming sword as the ship goes up in flames, and we finally kill the Khan.
We will be remembered forever.
No, you will be forgotten.
This is yours.
There's a conversation between Yuna and Jin now, about a message Shimura sent, demanding to speak with Jin. Right now, even though I've been talking about it for the combined total of, 2.5 hours now, I want to directly talk about the quality of this game's story. Perfect. Simply put, perfect. From the writing, the characters, the direction, everything was executed perfectly. No one character feels completely one-sided or bland. There was never any point where I felt like the writers took a day off or wrote something generic. It feels so special. Like there's nothing like it, and that there never will be anything like it. They hit the emotional beats and action points to a T every single time. I've never cried at a video game up until what's next. Shimura wants us to meet him where we sparred with him ages ago. We get here before he does, and we decide to pass the time by playing our mother's flute on the dock. Shimura arrives in the morning, surprised that we actually came, given his opinion of us now. Jin immediately suggests teaming up to drive the remaining Mongols off Tsushima, but that isn't what Shimura is here for. He delivers news from the Shogun. Clan Sakai is no more. Disbanded, cast out. Jin is no longer a samurai. Even after all we've done for the island, in the end, it means nothing to the Shogun. Other samurai will be living in the Sakai estate. Before that, Jin wants to see his home one last time before it's taken from us. Thankfully, Shimura is willing to let us do that, and he asks for a ride with us. On the way, there's a peasant whose wagon got stuck in the mud. We dismount our horses and offer to help. He tells us he's planning to move the supplies he's hauling to Jogaku. He wants to support the ghost's so-called army. This is the first Jin is hearing about this. But this man only wants to help in any way he can. We push his wagon free and send the man on his way. We try to defend ourselves to Shimura with that statement about the so-called army on the way to the estate, but since Jin's tactics have been heard throughout the land, the citizens of Tsushima have been looking to him instead of the samurai. Jin defied Shimura, embarrassing him to the people of the island. They stop the accusations as they arrive and walk through the Sakai cemetery to pay respects to their family.
I will miss this. So will I. The Shogun has declared you a traitor. He ordered you to kill me. The ghost was an outlaw. He taught our people to defy their leaders. To defend themselves. With poison. A gift you gave to our enemy. I had to stop you from throwing away our people's lives. You have no honor. And you are a slave to it. You are my son. Now I must continue the line of Shimura without you. I must start a new family. And my head is the cost. Taking it is my punishment. Our final day together. It is beautiful. It's time. Write the last words of Clan Sakai and Clan Shimura. Hands that shaped the world. A fate neither of us want. Will death redeem us? parents will always be with you.
Yes, Uncle.
I will train you to become the strongest warrior Clan Sakai has ever known. I will raise you as my own son. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Last duel with our last family member. During our duel, Jin tries to sway Shimura to reconcile, but the honor Shimura is bound to is too strong. Jin manages to overcome his uncle, and Shimura falls to the ground.
Honor me with a warrior's death.
The very first time I played this game, I spared him. And while Jin looks cool as hell sparing him, this other option that I chose for my second and now third playthrough is what made me fall apart.
I will make sure you are remembered as a great warrior, a wise leader, and a father.
Thank you, my son. Find me in the next life.
I will.
Going for walks or working or going to the gym where I flip the soundtrack on, and a lot of the times I get chills just listening to some of the music. But everything I've talked about up until this point is why I think Ghost of Tsushima is a perfect game, perfect experience. After everything is done, we find that Jin has made himself a home where we can reminisce over his adventure in this game. We can go through his life up until this point and see the man Jin really was. A friend, a student, a mentor, an inspiration, and a son. We can now talk to Yuna, who compliments her home and how well it suits us. She also apologizes for our loss of Shimura. Even now, Jin knows that no matter how much he regretted his actions, he did what he needed. Killing the Khan, saving the island from all its troubles, and becoming a beacon of hope and inspiration for all of Tsushima and beyond. And now, the battle we fought for so long is over. But Jin's story still isn't over. There was an amazing DLC story that came out as well. We start this DLC by investigating a Mongol attack in a fishing village in Toyotama. Upon further investigation, we find a horrific sight of tortured citizens who were driven to death by murder or suicide. We then see a Mongol clad in garb unlike those on Tsushima, chanting and moving in an unfamiliar fashion. The chanting seems to be affecting the other Mongols in some way as well. These types of Mongols are called the shamans, who buff the enemy and make them harder to kill. But if we kill the shaman, they return to normal. Killing all the Mongols, Jin interrogates a surviving enemy and he tells us they heard the call of the eagle, and that this so-called eagle's army will head here from Iki Island. And if you remember from way earlier on, Iki Island is the island where Jin's father was killed. And now, Jin plans to go there and face not just the eagle, but face the trauma of reliving his father's death again. Yuna arrives to the village to talk with us before we leave. We fill her in on the situation and who we're up against. Our first concern is what the Eagle's militia can do to Tsushima. However, it will be a bit rough for Jin because the people on Iki hate the samurai for what Jin's father did to them. Due to his personal connection to the island and his father's war on it, it is our duty to stop the Eagle's threat. There's a boatman here who's willing to sail us there as soon as possible, up to where his father's old fort was built. Jin calls Kaze and we set sail for Iki. During the ride, Jin looks up at the sky and spots a horrid storm tumbling our way. A lightning bolt strikes the boat and we're separated from Kaze and the boat. Once Jin emerges on shore, he realizes he's alone at this moment. He takes in this injured state he's in and tries to find a way through the cove. We're surrounded by shipwreckage and a huge cliffside, along with large spikes that look like bones. We actually end up learning a new way to use Taka's hook, pulling wooden beams down. Now we get to have a grand look at Iki Island. Much like Tsushima, this place is gorgeous, and its environment definitely seems unique compared to Tsushima as well. Along the coast, we come up on the boat we sailed on. Kaze is nowhere to be seen, but the captain of the boat didn't make it. Luckily, there are some horse tracks nearby that may belong to Kaze. We trace them up to a villager, exclaiming his fear of the Eagle tribe and that a horse came charging through not a moment ago, trampling a snake that was endangering this man. He points out the direction it ran, and up the road, Kaze is ahead, charging through a group of the Eagle tribe. We get to catch up and reunite with our horse. Now unlocking some horse combat where we can use our resolve to rush through groups of enemies and knock them down. Before we move on with the story, I'll talk about the things you can do around the island, such as archery challenges you can take part in to gain a charm that increases your focus on slowed shots. There's a quest to unlock horse armor that boosts the damage of charge attacks. There's also a collection of animal sanctuaries scattered throughout the island. With these, you can kneel down and play your flute to the animal that matches the sanctuary. Like here, you can play it for a monkey. Afterwards, Jin will recollect memories he had with his mother way back when he was a child. Each time he learned the flute with her was a special experience that meant a lot to him. There are also cat sanctuaries, and as a cat owner myself, I certainly enjoyed it. And there are also deer sanctuaries, and deer are cool. Along with sanctuaries of his mother, there are memory locations you can play through of Jin's time spent on the island with his dad. Now, there are a whole lot of these, so I'm just going to talk about the important story beats that I think are worth talking about. The first is right after a battle, and some of Kazumasa's men are boasting about the amount of glory that he stole from them on the battlefield. Jin had killed a soldier during this and genuinely questions the morality of his actions when he fought. Kazumasa wants him to think he's a successful warrior, and what he did had to be done. Another memory is where Jin had his first drink of sake, where Kazumasa empties his feelings on how much he cared for Jin's mother. She was, more or less, his other half, and the only thing Jin has left from her is the flute, which he plays for Kazumasa to ease his mind. That one time he played was the first time he actually felt like Kazumasa's son. The next memory is where they first made a camp at the island. During this, we hear how Kazumasa talked of the islanders, saying they were akin to disgusting rats. Maybe Kazumasa wasn't as great as we were supposed to think. In a one-on-one with him, he tells us about how our armor was incorrectly set up, but he turns it into a lesson in how we learn from our mistakes, not to dwell on them. Jin, however, suspects his father wishes he hadn't followed them to the island, but since he's here now, he's expected to make him proud. The next isn't far from where Kazumasa died, where Lord Adachi walks us to our father after a competitive archery challenge. Jin asks Kazumasa why he wouldn't want to stay on the island, but Kazumasa, he has his connections to Omi village. He can't abandon it. Jin, though, thought of Iki as a nice home once, but not after how he felt during battle. Kazumasa tells us what it is to be a Sakai, about how we're stronger than mountains. Once he's on the verge of telling us how he really feels about the time we spent together, he's cut off and guided away. Jin then wishes he could have heard how Kazumasa felt about him before he died. Lastly is the day he departed Iki Island. Before he left, he played some music in memory of his father. Before leaving for the mainland, he shares his feelings with Lord Adachi about how he feels guilty for not saving his father. But Clan Sakai still exists, well, not after the main story, and he will carry his father's legacy. After this, Jin plays some music for a nearby deer. With all the memories Jin had with his father, he doesn't need to run from them anymore. Now he can understand who Kazumasa was as a father, maybe not as a warlord. Kazumasa was a strong man who stood tall and who cared deeply for his family. Lastly, on Iki, there are 4 special puzzles we can find on the island to unlock armor variants that are references to other PlayStation exclusive games, with a little jingle that are also from those games respectively, like a variant of Tadayori's armor through an archery puzzle, which gives us a Horizon Zero Dawn coloration, a God of War Kratos skin on the Sakai clan armor, a Ghost armor version with the Shadow of the Colossus skin, and, my personal favorite, a Bloodborne coloration on the Kensei armor. Also, spoilers on what my next video is gonna be. Anyways, back to the main game. We try to go into Fort Sakai head on, but we're forced into a scripted death, where we're knocked out and dragged away.
You. Are you the eagle? The scouts you sent to Tsushima. I killed them. Khotun Khan is dead. We defeated his army on Tsushima. Tomorrow, 1,000 samurai will join me on the shores of Iki. Surrender, and we will spare you.
Your journey was hard. Drink.
There are easier ways to kill me.
I do not harm my guests.
did you give me?
My sacred medicine. Save your strength. This is the easy part.
You won't break me.
You were broken long ago. I release your spirit to travel the underworld. Face the judgment of your ancestors.
Whatever she fed us seemed to make Jin's thoughts of his father worsen. When he finally comes to, we can hear a very faint voice from Yuna, who seemed to have followed us to the island. Even though we told her not to come, she's here now and we need to leave to find a healer to get rid of the poison. Yuna asks when the other samurai will arrive, but other than her, we told nobody. We reach a wooden walkway and peer down below to see none other than Kazumasa, asking why Jin never saved him, berating him for not avenging us the moment he was killed. Then, Yuna transforms into the eagle, which explains her strange questioning she gave us. The eagle was getting information out of us, and now she knows we're Jin Sakai. She wants to use us with her poison to kill the people of Iki. Jin rolls off the edge and falls under a deeper trance, becoming a younger version of himself. Hearing Kazumasa's voice in a scary-looking canyon, we try to run through and escape the hallucinations. But Kazumasa's voice rings louder, commenting about Jin in a demeaning way, like saying how Jin is no fighter, how he tarnishes the Sakai clan, or that he will be the downfall of the clan. Just as we reach a light at the end of the tunnel, we hear those words again. The very words that the man who killed Kazumasa said right before he killed him, seeing a distorted version of his death alongside it. Then, a man standing before us asks us if we're alright, and takes us to a camp for safety. After we wake up, Jin gets a little startled since this island hasn't exactly been nice to him since we arrived. This guy, named Tenzo, found out we're not just from Tsushima, but that we are samurai and asked us why we of all people would come here. We're just here to help though. Jin tells Tenzo of how he was forced to drink the eagle's poison, and he's shocked that not only are we alive, but we're able to keep up a conversation. Others who have taken it haven't been so lucky. Tenzo, unfortunately, doesn't know if there's any known time limit for it wearing off, so we'll have to deal with it until then. In the meantime, we offer to help wipe out the eagle tribe from the island. Because he's a Sakai, Jin tells Tenzo his name is Jin from Yarikawa as a disguise. He reluctantly agrees and tells us where to meet him next, so we can talk to his boss. On the way, we learn of someone else on this island under the name of the Ghost. We try to tell these villagers we're the Ghost and whatever stories they told are wrong, but they assure us they're true and point us to his camp. This is the only side quest stuff I'll be covering in this section, but don't worry, it isn't that long. The Ghost camp has an empty sake bottle and a still warm campfire. We decide to sit around and wait until we catch sight of him. We do spot a few bandits in the distance and a man sneaking up on them. Maybe this ghost we're looking for. All he does is steal more sake and blow up some barrels before running away. We track him down and question him, finding out that he owes this raider a fortune. We shoo the raider away though and confront him directly about being the ghost. But this man is actually the ghost's sidekick? Apparently the real ghost has been captured. He points out his location and we depart to question the ghost of Iki. We kill the Mongols outside and get inside the house to find this imposter. And of all the people we could find in here, of course it's Kenji! Of course we should have known better. But hey, I ain't complaining. Apparently, he's on Iki because there's a smuggler fixing a ship to the mainland. The reason he's tied up with a life in danger, again, is because he tried to sneak aboard that very ship, which the smuggler didn't like. I mean, duh, right? He also tried to rob them by selling them sour sake. The reason he was under the ghost's name was so he might be able to cheat his way into paying for the ride up to the mainland. Jin attempts to leave him to clean up his own mess, but Kenji influences him into helping him anyways. We cut him loose and took him from the house. We ask him about that unpaid intern from earlier named Fugu, who is a fisherman. Kenji wants help finding him, and in return, he'll drop the Ghost Act. He takes us to the agreed meeting place, and we get a more direct one-on-one with Fugu. Fugu is ecstatic Kenji is alive and cheers for the ghost, to which Kenji tells him that Jin is the real ghost. He reluctantly tells us that a man named the Viper has a message for the ghost, but we all know it's for Kenji. The Viper is also the smuggler Kenji tried to bypass to get onto the boat. Jin agrees to help, but only because the Viper has been trouble for the samurai for years. We ride with Kenji to the Viper's den and request we speak to him. Jin does most of the talking to try and ease Kenji's future punishment, however the Viper doesn't want to negotiate due to how badly Kenji messed up. Jin brings up the bounty on the Viper's head and hopes he lowers Kenji's payment so Kenji doesn't die in the process before his debt is paid. The Viper agrees, only if we get a hold of some sea charts to ensure these boats are able to reach the mainland safely. The deal is set and we depart to retrieve the charts. The charts were located at a Mongol camp that we nab pretty easily, and then we ride back to the Viper without much trouble. He thanks us for our endeavors and tells us how there is only one seat left in the boat. Thankfully, Kenji is just one man. Kenji tries to offer to put Jin in a sake barrel to sneak him on board too, but with all the barrels he's been in, he's had enough. We promise to celebrate with sake when the war is over, and say goodbye to Kenji.
Fugu! Forget something, Master?
Yeah, my common sense. Take my seat on the ship. You earned it.
But, Master...
Get moving, before I change my mind.
I didn't think you had it in you.
I'll scrape by. Fugu, I didn't like his chances. It's better this way. Besides, you didn't think you'd get rid of me that easily, did you?
I'm not that lucky.
This calls for a drink.
To the ghost of Iki.
To forgetting all about him.
Our boy finally became a true hero. Now then, without any more derailments, back to the main story. Finding Tenzo near the coast, he's found a few of his friends that died from the Eagle's tribe. They need to be buried, so Jin offers to help in doing so. When finished, Tenzo delivers a final prayer. Jin asks if he can still join Tenzo's crew to fight the Eagle. Even though the poison is still affecting him, it hasn't outright slowed us down yet. So Tenzo agrees, for now. They have a long ride ahead of them, so they sneak in some small talk. Tenzo tells us to watch ourselves, since the raiders don't feel the same towards the samurai ever since the Sakai invasion, or so they call it. They also refer to Kazumasa as the Butcher of Iki. The entrance to the hideout is being watched by Mongols, so we kill them and see that the entrance is blocked off. So, we'll need to take a cliffside route by the sea. On the way, Jin hears the Eagle's voice in his head, incriminating Tenzo and trying to turn Jin against him. He fights it off but puts Tenzo on edge, rightfully so. On the cliffside path, we see one of the raiders' ships being shot at by the Eagle's warship. But at the gate, Tenzo reminds us that we need to keep our heads down and don't try anything stupid. Inside, their leader, Fune, calls for Tenzo to go up and talk to her. She asks why the hell he would bring a samurai to her cove, but she and her raiders need fighters, a lot of them, so the more metal, the merrier. Since Jin has personal problems with the Eagle tribe on Tsushima, he would love to help the cause. Tenzo further persuades her by telling her that Jin can either help or die trying, which would kill another samurai, and that is a good thing for Fune. This thankfully works, and our goal is to take out the warship that we saw a few moments ago. Jin suggests we destroy the boat from the inside. Tenzo actually has an idea for this too. There's a supply boat we can use that the warship takes from regularly, which we can use to sneak aboard. Tenzo is in charge for this mission, and we will be needed at the northeast coast for this. Before this mission starts, I forgot to record the first encounter with it, but all you need to know is that Tenzo killed an Eagle tribe member after interrogating him. Regardless, we're now at the inlet and sneak down the cliffside to get the jump on the patrol at the beach. Before we can use the fog to row the boats quietly to the ship, the fog lifts and the ships fire at us. We plan to go around and find a way in. During this, the poison rings in our head again, telling Jin that the raiders know he's a Sakai. He shakes it off again and finds a way to get into the Mongols' territory. They didn't know what hit them before they were already hit, and the raiders join us on the boat. Jin asks about Tenzo's attitude he's had since we walked up on him interrogating that Mongol, but he brushes it aside and insists we move on. They prepare to set sail for the boat and find hiding places for all the raiders before we head out. The plan is set in stone, and we sail out of the cove into the warship, waiting for the Eagle tribe to board it. When we're ready, we attack, clearing the warship of Mongols. And just for extra measure, we ignite the explosives on board. We then escape back to the supply ship and watch as the warship goes up in flames. This was a success for the raiders, and we sail back to Fune's refuge to celebrate. At the refuge, Tenzo says that Fune would kill the both of them. Jin is taken aback by this. Then Tenzo further explains by revealing he knows Jin is a Sakai. He then threatens to reveal his identity to the refuge and get Jin killed. Jin knows that this is just a ploy the Eagle is trying to pull to get all her enemies killed at once. And Jin also pieces together that the Mongol we saw him interrogate told him who Jin really was. Tenzo then gives us some insight on his life before this place went to shit. He wasn't just married, but he was expecting, but neither survived childbirth. Fune had helped him bury them. Iki is his home. This is what matters most to him. The point is that he brought the child of the butcher of Iki here. This could practically be treason. Jin knows what's at stake, and they agree to keep it between them for the greater good. They continue to stand together. Tenzo will tell Fune of our good work and will continue with our goal. They both enforce the importance of watching their words, and then we depart. When we talk to Fune, she reluctantly thanks us for our efforts. She can now tread these waters safely. We still have to focus our efforts on facing the Eagle's poison, and we can do it with Fune and her raiders. Apparently, the Eagle and her main force left Fort Sakai a few hours ago. This is a perfect chance to infiltrate it and take the fort for ourselves to free them. Inside, there are a handful of Fune's men being tortured, so this is also a rescue mission. So we sneak up to Fort Sakai and take out the beginning force, freeing the captives mining rocks up front. One of the raiders tells us that the fort has one of the Eagle's commanders in charge, up at the top of this place. When we go through the first gate, the poison strikes again, with that same statement ringing in Jin's head, watching Kazumasa die. We shake it off once again and burst through the fort, freeing any raider stuck in a cage. At the very top of the camp, we feel the Eagle's poison again, with a vision of Kazumasa surrounded by strung-up raiders, even though the real person we see is the commander, Nubish. I hope I said that right. He tells Jin that the transformation has already begun, a transformation to turn Jin into an Eagle Tribe shaman. But Jin knows the truth of her supposed medicine and takes out the commander. Although before we take him out, he backs away and runs into the nearby tower. At the top, we confront him one last time, and he tries to further his point of where the poison will lead us. Jin kills him, throws him off the tower, and sets the fort aflame. As a reward for freeing the raiders in the fort, not only do we get his thanks, but this raider also gives us saddlebags to put on our horse for extra storage space for the items we pick up. Fune thanks us once again for our help with saving her men. She tells us that her scouts intercepted a message directed from the Eagle. She's of course looking to capture Jin, and now is when Jin tells Fune about his captive experience with the Eagle. Tenzo was able to find one of her patrols and others surrounding the cliffside to the refuge. This is her payback for what we've done to her commander and warship. So the plan is to draw them away from here and fight them in an ambush at Kirafure village. Fune orders Tenzo to gather the men and will march to fight the good fight. This is the first time we'll be fighting alongside Fune as well. Fune tells us that the people of Kirafure no longer live here because of our father, because it's been destroyed by him. Throughout this section, the Eagle's poison will downplay us and tell us the slaughter was our fault. At the watchtower, we plan out our strategy on where everyone will be placed. Ahead of us is an open spot, where we get another vision from the eagle, showing that this is where our father's army killed not just raiders, but innocent villagers. Jin mutters to himself, saying that this is where they would flee, before correcting himself and covering up the eagle's influence by saying, "We will flee there if we need to." We ride out to our meeting place with Tenzo, where he asks about our slip-up a moment ago. Tenzo points out that Jin was here when Kazumasa destroyed Iki, and Jin tries to defend his father. Tenzo, however, saw the absolute demolition that Kazumasa delivered to Iki firsthand. Iki's villagers had only fought back against the samurai in self-defense, in any way they could. He had a friend who lived in this village, who died because of the samurai, but he couldn't find his head. It was detached completely from his body, buried in pounds of mud. Jin can't relate to this kind of pain Tenzo felt. He can't bear to realize how many men his own father wrongfully killed, but he did have the misfortune of watching him die in front of him. The guilt of not saving him still eats away at him. Just then, the signal to attack the Mongols go off, and we have to act now, since this is our best chance to minimize the enemy. With Tenzo and Fune, we ride and cut down the enemy on horseback. We need to get past these Mongols to get to the ambush spot to blow up the upcoming convoy. Jin then sees another of the eagle's poisonous visions, making us watch as our father's army brutally kills the innocent. When we break out, more signals are fired out in the distance. The eagle tribe managed to capture the lookouts. Killing the captors, we managed to rescue the lookouts. Then we see as the rest of our force is being chased by more of the eagle tribe. We're spread thin and outnumbered, but we have horses and Jin Sakai, so we keep after them and finally put this force down and out for good.
Give chase! Cut them down!
May your death benefit all beings. Jin?
May your death benefit all beings. I've heard that before. From my father's killer.
You're hearing things. It's the eagle's poison.
Say the prayer for yourself before I end your life.
Do it. On this blood-soaked ground where your father massacred hundreds.
He was trying to save lives.
You knew who I was. What you did to my father. You lied to my face.
You lied to yourself. Your father was my enemy, not you.
How did someone so worthless defeat Kazumasa Sakai?
I don't know. Luck! He slaughtered dozens of us before we brought him down. Broke his leg, I think. All I did was finish the job. Get on with it, samurai!
Not yet. You killed my father by luring us into an ambush at Senjo Gorge. That's how we're going to kill the eagle.
We need more than the two of us.
Talk to Fune, and meet me near the canyons.
We can't hide who you are anymore. But if I tell Fune...
Do it. Tell her I'm Jin Sakai. She knows I fight for Iki. My actions prove it. Tell her I am not my father. If I was, you would be dead.
Genuinely an insane twist. Even though he killed our father, we still need to let him live and work together to fight the eagle. When we regroup with Fune and Tenzo later on, Fune has been filled in by Tenzo on who we really are. But we won't be letting that difference get in our way, since the eagle's demise is at hand. But first, we need to locate her. We'll find a way to draw her into Senjo Gorge and corner her there, along with the rest of the tribe. Fune is already a step ahead of us and is already having her men comb every inch of the island. Fune will be heading to Senjo Gorge in the meantime, and will help the scouts find the eagle. After resting till night, we get on horseback and ride to the nearest scouts. The raider tells us that the Mongols are searching for us, so we plan to find them first. Just then, Jin spots the eagle riding towards them. Tenzo and the raider can't see her, but we have to move in to fight. In our duel with the eagle, the poison kicks in again, and she tries to turn us. When we snap out of it, she disappears. Jin completely imagined her being there. The poison is getting worse. When these Mongols are wiped out, the poison speaks to us again, taunting Jin, asking him where the eagle could possibly be in all of the island. Senjo Gorge. She's already there, and is tempting us to go there. We have to go there regardless to help out Fune and the rest of the raiders anyways, so what's the harm? After the rest of the tribe are killed, Fune tells us that they pretty much ambushed the ambush before they could ambush them. Fune confirms that the eagle is here, deeper in the gorge, so deeper in the gorge we go. Eventually, the poison hits again and makes Jin second guess the existence of this very battle. And up ahead is another fake fight with the eagle we are forced to combat until we snap out of it again. The poison is at its worst right now, and all we can hope is that we get through alive. Finally, all the eagle tribe is gone from the gorge, and the poison tells Jin that he knows exactly where she is, the very same grounds where his father died. Jin and Tenzo will go in alone, and as soon as we reach the alcove where Kazumasa died, we confront the eagle once and for all. The place where Jin and Tenzo originally crossed paths years ago, and the place where Jin's path towards understanding his father truly began. The eagle tries to tell us that the poison led us here entirely to become her puppet shaman. While it did lead us here, it wasn't for any reason she truly wanted. She wants our spirit to soar in the eternal blue sky. With enough of her bullshit, Jin faces the eagle, and Tenzo faces the rest. The duel functions like any other at first, with her berating us and trying to flip us against our comrades. Then, the poison strikes again, weakening Jin. We try to hold our own, but she buffers us to the ground.
Father.
Jin! Help me!
Jin. We should have died here together. Like warriors.
I'm sorry I failed you, Father.
Not me. Our clan. The Sakai name is tarnished.
The people here accuse us of terrible things.
Sometimes, what is necessary is also terrible. The actions I took were not easy. But they needed to be done.
You did what was needed on the battlefield. Not at home. I needed a father.
When we lost your mother, I was left with a son I didn't know how to help. So, I raised a samurai. It's time, Jin. Do what is necessary. Rid our clan of shame and defeat. Avenge me. Kill him, you coward!
No. I will never be like you. The way you lived was not my choice. And your death was not my fault.
Jin successfully breaks from the poison one last time. And for good. Battling the eagle one-on-one with no more tricks, and saving Iki from all her torment.
One day, you will face the judgment of your ancestors. One day.
May your death benefit all beings.
Now's your chance.
Are you alright?
I'll live. What about you? Still hearing her?
No.
I'm sorry, Jin.
So am I.
Sounds like a celebration. I better check on Pune. Tell her the good news.
Go on. I'll join you later.
Don't wait too long, Jin.
The finale of this DLC is amazing. Using the cinematic parallel of Jin using the very same line that tormented him his entire life against someone endangering the very person who used it against his father. I feel like I can't glaze this game enough, but I think I've said my final piece. While I don't think the DLC story is as good as the main story, it's still fantastic and a perfect wrap-up to Jin as a person and as a character. I obviously couldn't fit in every single side quest or line of dialogue or interaction that resides in this game. There was a lot of intercut dialogue in many of the missions that I just couldn't put in because, well, to be honest, I, as a person, can't relay all the information in the game. Not as perfectly as how the game does it itself. And that's why I think Ghost of Tsushima is just a game that you should experience. And that it's a better experience playing it by yourself and not just having some guy on the internet talking to you about it. But I did try and do my best to portray as much as I could and construct a good argument as to why I think Ghost of Tsushima is genuinely amazing. And with that, this video, all parts concluded, is over. Also, I won't be talking about the Legends Mode DLC because I do not like it. Sorry, Legends fans. But please, be sure to like this video, comment if you liked it, or if you have constructive criticism, and subscribe. If I could get to, I don't know, 100 subscribers by New Year's, then I'll do a backflip, or die trying. Not really, but I'll do something big. Have a good day, evening, or night. wherever you are, and I hope you enjoyed the video.